Dale Earnhardt in for his stop. He will change left side tires on the Earnhardt car. Jeff Bodine was in. He got left side tires. Well, Bill Elliott got right side rubber. They have 1 can of fuel in. They're adding a second can. Should be a good stop for Earnhardt.
Daytona, certainly big and fast.
Well, indeed, he has run out of fuel. You know, he had called a minute ago. We were talking to Gary Nelson and said the car is sputtering in the corners. He was trying to slosh it back and forth and just get enough fuel being picked up in the corners to keep the car running. But apparently not the case. The car off the face there waiting here helpless with 1 can of fuel.
Rockingham, always rugged.
White flag for Dale Earnhardt as he seeks to win his 21st career Winston Cup checkered flag.
And Richmond always seems to take its toll.
Super battles in turn 3. Earnhardt, he goes to the inside of Gans. Gans is out of shape. Harry spins. He tags the outside retaining wall. The cars move to the inside of Gans as there's caution on the speedway.
And Atlanta is exciting.
Side by side, wheel well to wheel well. Benny is forced to the high side. Here comes Rusty Wallace on the low side of the racetrack. He's going to try and tighten things up. And it's Ricky Rudd who leads off turn 2.
But all the time, she's a lady in waiting. For that one time every spring when the lady in black finally awakens from her sleep to continue her reputation of too tough to tame. And any driver will tell you,
you don't win Darlington, you survive.
Welcome to Darlington.
Leader in motorsports coverage presents Speed World, setting the standards with the most extensive schedule in racing. Good afternoon from Darlington, South Carolina. You're about to see live a 500-mile stock car race on what amounts to a brand new racetrack. They've repaved the surface of this old facility, and the drivers say it fosters more side-by-side racing than ever before. We may see the most competitive race ever run here. But the drivers also say Darlington is still very tricky. There is no room for error on this speedway, not anywhere.
Darlington. In reality, that is really the only word you have to utter when describing this place. The race drivers revere and respect this place, but on the other hand, they fear it very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Larry Newber. That, of course, was Dick Berggren, the editor of Stock Car Racing magazine. Bob Jenkins, who normally shares this microphone with me, is unable to be with us this week because of the death of his father, and we will keep him and his family in our thoughts throughout this broadcast. But with me is Dr. Jerry Punch, a veteran observer and broadcaster of the Winston Cup scene.
Larry, this track, built nearly 4 decades ago, is steeped in racing tradition. But Speedway President Red Tyler succeeded a couple of months ago in doing something that drivers have been trying to do for 37 years here. He knocked the walls down. A total renovation here at Darlington. New grandstand, seats, a new press box, a new paving job. A total revamping of this facility. Everything is different except the race fan. These die-hard Sandhill, South Carolina race fans are here in mass today. It's the annual rite of spring here at Darlington, and as one of the ministers said during pre-race festivities, it's redneck high holy day here in the South.
Well, Jerry, that is the scene from the grandstands, but from down on the track level, the scene for 1987 has been Dale Earnhardt leading in points and dominating this season.
Well, the reigning Winston Cup champion picked up where he left off a year ago. A tremendous run this year. 2 out of 4 races he's won. He's been dominant in 3 of the 4. So certainly a tremendous effort, and he should be awfully tough today.
Well, another part of the scene in 1987 is the rise of people who have less experience than some of the veterans. And right now, our second pit reporter, Gary Lee, our colleague from the north who helps us out on USAC and IMSA races, is with today's pole setter.
Well, thank you, Larry, and good afternoon. The 1985 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year, Kenny Schrader, starts from the pole position in the Red Baron Frozen Pizza Thunderbird, his first ever Winston Cup pole. Now, he started from the pole position many times in sprint car and midget competition, but a new experience this afternoon for him. He has, starting outside, the defending Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt, a host of veterans behind him. We asked him what his strategy was. He said, well, I have to go as fast as I can to keep these guys behind me. It's going to be a new experience for the youngster from Benton, Missouri, Kenny Schrader, looking for a good ride this afternoon here at Darlington.
Well, Gary, he has had a season that has been for real. He's been near the front on every race, and maybe this is his first time ever in victory lane. Today's race is being brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. By Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Red Wing, the 20-mile-a-day comfort of Red Wing shoes and boots. We'll be back very shortly with the starting lineup for today's TranSouth 500 from the legendary Darlington International Raceway, Darlington, South Carolina.
The Monte Carlo SS of NASCAR champion Dale Earnhardt uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Monte Carlo SS leaves Chevrolet with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle GT Street Radial. Not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles, they'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
In 1950, as the balloons rise into the heavens, this was the site of the first ever super speedway stock car race, and the tradition very much continues in 1987, 37 years later. Well, Kenny Schrader, as Gary Lee told you, sits on the pole for the first time in his career. He's qualified consistently, particularly on the super speedways, into the top couple of rows, but today may be his biggest chance. There you see Dale Earnhardt, the defending champion, a man who has won here at this racetrack. He has been absolutely second to none in 1987. Will this be another Earnhardt day? Here is the starting lineup. On the pole, Ken Schrader, flanked by Dale Earnhardt, Mr. Speed, Mr. Consistency of this season. In row number 2, the man who has been red hot in the last 3 seasons in his Ford Thunderbird, Bill Elliott, and Benny Parsons, our sometimes broadcast colleague in the Folgers Exxon Chevrolet. In row number 3, the 5th and 6th starting position, another youngster, Davey Allison in the Haviline Ford, with Rusty Wallace on his outside in the Kodiak Pontiac. In 7th and 8th position, Jeff Bodine on the inside, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, and he is flanked by the veteran Bobby Allison, the Miller American Buick. Occupying row number 5, Lake Speed making a comeback of sorts in 1987. In the wins came our Oldsmobile and Ricky Rudd, the recent winner at Atlanta in the Motocraft Ford. Side by side in row number 6, Buddy Baker, Crisco Bullfrog Knits Oldsmobile, and a Chevrolet driven by Harry Gant, sponsored by Soul Bandit. In 13th and 14th position, Neil Bonnet on the inside in a Pontiac by Valvoline, and Terry Labonte switching to the Junior Johnson team this year, Budweiser Chevrolet. 15th and 16th is the Fast Fair Copenhagen Oldsmobile of Phil Parsons, and Sterling Marlin in the number 44 Oldsmobile. 17th and 18th, Dave Marcus, Lifebuoy Chevrolet, and Morgan Shepherd and Kenny Bernstein's Quaker State Buick. In 19th and 20th, the side-by-side people there, Darrell Waltrip in the Tide Machine, it's a Chevrolet, and Bobby Helen, the winner on a super speedway in 1986, it's a Buick. In 21st and 22nd, Cale Yarborough switching to his own team this year. It's an Oldsmobile, and another Olds, the Kodak Film, one of our camera cars, Rick Wilson. The 12th row, the Pettys, Kyle Petty and Richard Petty in a Ford and Pontiac, respectively. And now here is the rest of the field. In 25th and 26th is Ron Bouchard in a Chevrolet, and another Chevrolet rowmate, Tommy Ellis. Then Greg Sachs in the Valvoline Pontiac, and Eddie Bierschwal in the Panhill Knits Ford. In 29th, Rodney Combs, the Dyguard Chevrolet, Michael Waltrip, and the Domino's Queen of Hearts Chevrolet. In 31st and 32nd, Jimmy Means on the inside. On the port side is D.K. Ulrich. 33rd and 34th, Connie Saylor and the Sunny King Ford Honda Buick, and Alan Kowicki. He sat on the pole earlier this year in a race at Richmond in the Xerox Ford. In 35th and 36th, H.B. Bailey out of the Southwest, flanked by Slick Johnson. Next, we have Bobby Wawak and J.D. McDuffie, then Steve Chrisman and Jonathan Edwards, and James Hilton in car number 48. We will have 2 in-car cameras for you today as they cam around this larger than 1.13 mile oval. First in Cale Yarborough's, the Hardee's machine, the Hardee's car cam. There you get a shot of Cale riding behind on this pace lap, Darrell Waltrip on the inside, and Rick Wilson on the outside. Rick is significant to us today because he has the other in-car cam, the Kodak race car cam of Rick Wilson. There you can see it once again, Waltrip on the inside. You saw that shot from inside of Cale Yarborough's car and directly up ahead. And we're working into the 10th row. There is Bobby Hillen, and Morgan Shepherd is down on the inside. This racetrack, there's one factor that you have to deal with, and that is intimidation. Jerry?
Exceedingly so. You have to beat the racetrack as well as the other competitors here, and Earnhardt can do that. Dale Earnhardt likes to intimidate drivers because of his experience, and he can do it. He's done it in the past.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to intimidate Kenny Schrader. You know, in his qualifying race at Daytona, he was running side by side with Bill Elliott, and Elliott tried to intimidate him. Schrader held his ground and won the race. Nobody's going to push him around today, Jerry.
Well, we will go one more lap before we go green here. Kenny Schrader is a man with enormous experience. Kenny Schrader, of course, has been running indoors in the midget races in 1986. He has won up in the Chicago area, finished second in the Indianapolis area. Lots of experience in all kinds of racing.
Jeff Bodine, this is Jerry Punch at ESPN. 1 lap to go, partner. Wishing you good luck today.
Thanks a lot, Jerry. Yeah, we need lots of luck today. This is a tough old racetrack. It did pretty good with us yesterday. We're just hoping that Levi Garrett, Exxon Motor Oil, 18 Sparkplug Chevrolet will stay up there.
We'll stay out of trouble, and best of luck to you.
Thanks a lot. Hope it's a good race.
The reference that Jeff was making to the late model sportsman race that was conducted here yesterday, he finished second. He was runner-up to, well, who else? Dale Earnhardt. The man who finished third was Jeff's brother, Brett, who was not in the race today, but we anticipate his next Winston Cup race next week in North Wilkesboro. We anticipate green flag. You know, these drivers run 30 times, 29, 30 times a year, and it becomes somewhat routine. But believe me, the Darlington International Raceway is a racetrack which catches your attention. The hearts beat just a little stronger at this point in the race. You begin to grip the steering wheel a little more. Now the emotion goes away. You look to Harold Kinder, green flag. Dale Earnhardt looked like he had an advantage going into number 1, but tenacity paid off as Kenny Schrader held his own on the bottom of the racetrack. Down the backstretch, Earnhardt once again with the advantage going in. This is a one-abreast turn. What will happen? It's Earnhardt. He dives down off the banking and takes over the number 1 position.
Start, Larry. 41 cars going out here in Darlington, and Dale Earnhardt already flexing the muscle in his Chevrolet. Where he picked off earlier in the year, he's been extremely strong. You know, in this race a year ago, he was dominant, led over 330 of the 367 laps, and he's again at the front of the field. Jerry, not only this year, or not only last year this race, but this year, Dale Earnhardt has led more than half of the laps. When we take a look at Bill Elliott, yeah, he's still very much in it. Well, Bill Elliott, most of these drivers, to see Jeff Bodine sneaking a peek to the inside back in the field there, they will try to test the new asphalt here. Again, this is the first time these guys have been in competition here in Darlington. A brand new racetrack surface and a brand new race car. Essentially, these cars are 200 pounds lighter than they were a year ago, so a lot of unknowns and a lot of variables we'll get to find out today.
One of the early casualties, at least temporarily in this race, is the number 70 car of J.D. McDuffie. He is pulled into the pitch and went back to the garage area. There is Kyle Petty and Bobby Hillen. They run back in approximately 20th position. The positions change so rapidly in the early stages of the race, it's difficult to tell exactly who's running where at exactly what point.
Here's a shot from the Kodak car cam inside Rick Wilson's Kodak Oldsmobile, looking at the rear of Bobby Hillin. As you see how they work that steering wheel coming out of the corners and headed down the back straightaway, you can see Hillin pulling a couple of car links on the Kodak car. And there we are, that battle you see from a distance. That's Kyle Petty in the car number 21, making a move inside of Dave Martins.
That's around 20th position. To be exact, it's 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Now we have completed 4 laps. The next time around, we're going to give those of you at home somewhat of a taste of what it's like to be out there. We're going to give you an entire lap of taking one pass around this Darlington International Raceway. Of your rocking chair at home, you see what it's like to be rocketing around the Darlington International Raceway at better than 150 miles an hour. Thank you, Cale Yarborough. And I'll tell you, these guys, because they're so skilled at what they do, they make it look easy, but particularly at Darlington, one slight miscue and you buy the wall. Gary Lee joining us today here at Darlington has got a comment on our pole setter, Kenny Schrader.
As we said before the race, Kenny said I wanted to go real fast to keep these guys behind me. He could not go fast enough to keep Dale Earnhardt behind. He may not wish right now to go fast enough to keep either Bill Elliott or Davey Allison behind. We were just talking to Julie Dunleavy, the car owner. He said right now Kenny's going to set his own pace. It's a very demanding racetrack and a very long race. So don't be too surprised if Kenny should fall back to 3rd or 4th in the early going.
We're going to go back to 6th and 7th position right now. There it is, Rusty Wallace, Benny Parsons, and Lake Speed kicking up his heels and making himself heard from.
Well, a Pontiac, a Chevrolet, and an Oldsmobile, indicating all of the factories involved in Winston Cup racing. And right now, Rusty Wallace, who's had a pretty good run the last couple of races, a couple of top 5 finishes the past 2 events, trying to hold off Benny Parsons.
And Jerry, what a run for Lake Speed. We mentioned he's trying to make somewhat of a comeback. He lost his ride basically a little more than a year ago on the Winston Cup Trail. He sat out 1986, and 1987 is very important. We got a spin in turn number 1. Looked like a Bowen engine.
That's Steve Chrisman, the rookie competitor, spinning up in turn 1, tags the wall, and the car coming down off the wall. Chrisman, one of the rookie competitors from Indiana, a short track hot shoe from around the Terre Haute, Fort Wayne area. There's a couple of cars skidding.
And Jerry, while this is going on, you can see Davey Allison has taken advantage of this yellow flag, and Davey Allison has moved around to 2nd spot. No yellow flag. The NASCAR officials ruled that Chrisman is out of the way, no debris on the racetrack, and Davey Allison really gained on that.
We might make mention that Chrisman's car was able to move on its own power down the backstretch pit area. He is off the racetrack now, moving down the pit road, but the battle continues, Larry.
What a move for Davey Allison. There is Benny Parsons, Rusty Wallace, and Lake Speed again. They are right now having a little bit of an argument for 6th position. We might recap the first 5 cars. It's Earnhardt with about a 15-car car length, 15-car lead over second-running Davey Allison. Kenny Schrader is 3rd. He lost that position to Davey Allison when Chrisman spun. Bill Elliott is 4th, and Jeff Bodine is 5th. They have been the 5 cars that have streaked away a little bit, although, as you can see, the lead is not gigantic.
Well, Earnhardt had just turned around to the guys behind him and said, "See ya." You know, enough of this working lap traffic and working cars around you. I'm going to head off of here and get out in front and take it easy for a while. But there's a tight battle, a little bit of fender bumping as Lake Speed's car slides in, and Rusty Wallace, those cars get together. They're door to door.
Well, they say there are not 2 lines all the way around. There's Bobby Allison making it 3 abreast. You cannot go 3 wide into number 3, and discretion very much the better part of
Lake Speed said, "Get me out of here." He's already bumped a little bit with Rusty Wallace. He moves by Rusty Wallace. So Lake Speed, that's his own team, his own race car. He's trying to impress maybe some sponsors here today, and Lake Speed doing a heck of a job.
Bobby Allison has obviously decided this is time to go. He disposes of Rusty Wallace, and now he puts his sights on Lake Speed. But Lake Speed is also beginning to tumble away. Lake Speed has instantly put about 5 car lengths between himself and that duo right there, Rusty Wallace and Bobby Allison.
Well, there's Bobby Allison and Rusty. One car just creeping into the picture. There's Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak Pontiac, but the car just behind Rusty is the car that won a couple of weeks ago, and that is Ricky Rudd. Rudd has had a terminal amount of bad luck here at Darlington. His best finish ever was a 4th here a couple of years ago, but Bud Moore, his car owner, has had good luck here. Moore has won with Earnhardt in the car, but he has not won in the past few years.
Ricky Rudd is currently in 10th position. We've had 13 laps go by. Greg Sachs is the latest driver to pull his car toward pit side. Looks like it's going to be another long day for the Dygard people.
You could buy a $100,000 sweeper to clean up around your house.
Hey, look out, Marge! What are you driving? I'm coming through!
Sure, it cleans driveways and patios quickly and easily, but so does the Litter Critter from ShopVac. A revolutionary new way to clean dirt and debris from outdoor surfaces without electricity or batteries. And when you're finished, the Litter Critter stays out of your way.
You didn't buy that, Herbert! I'm not crazy! I leased it!
The Litter Critter, a sweeping improvement from ShopVac.
Weight Watchers magazine explains how you can eat food like this and lose weight. In fact, every issue has recipes for dishes that not only look this good, but taste terrific, are easy to prepare, and can help you and your family stay healthy.
Call 800-525-7700 to get 12 issues of Weight Watchers magazine for only $11.97, $6 off the newsstand price. You'll also get free our pocket-sized booklet with calorie counts of popular restaurant dishes, even fast foods. Call 800-525-7700 now.
Stages at Darlington, 367 laps to go, weather permitting. A little more on that later. Earnhardt, Davey Allison, Schrader, Elliott, and Jeff Bodine. And there is the man of not only the hour, the week, the month, but so far of the year. There is second place, Davey Allison, and Davey Allison turning in perhaps his best run. Davey Allison stole away second position from Ken Schrader, but he has really made the most of it. What do you think, Gary?
Well, I wanted to talk to Joey Knuckles, the crew chief for Davey, who started 5th, and I said, are you guys going for the front? He said, well, no, not necessarily. We are racing the track. Well, obviously, everything is very well in car 28 because they started 5th, they're up to 2nd, and appear to be gaining on your leader, so they're only racing the track, but they could well be up in front before too long.
There's Davey Allison. What a tremendous run he's had. He's run awfully well here in the past in some of the Busch Grand National events, but this is really his first good run here in a Winston Cup car.
The two leaders just put one lap on Bobby Wawak. Yes, for those of you who are veteran observers, that was a number 77 on Wawak's car. He has an arrangement going on with Kenny Reagan in regards to points, the collection of points for the number 77. There is Ken Reagan, or rather Ken Reagan's number with Bobby Wawak behind the wheel. He qualified back in the 37th position and is trying to survive out there, which is a trick in itself here at Darlington.
Well, Davey Allison had his best finish ever in Winston Cup competition a couple of weeks ago in 5th spot. He finished 5th at Atlanta. He had a respectable 9th place finish down in Rockingham. But here's the battle for 3rd spot. Kenny Schrader, the pole sitter. Kenny, who had not set on the pole since July 5th of last year in a USAC stock car race at Terre Haute, Indiana. Sits on the pole here at Darlington, and I guess he's sort of biding his time right now, Larry.
Yeah, Jerry, he really is. And, you know, the cars this year are about 200 pounds lighter. Here you can see the average speed up to this point, the green flag average speed. We've not had a yellow yet, better than 156 miles an hour. I really felt that the new car styles suited Kenny's driving here at Darlington. This is not a typical super speedway where you kind of float in and on occasion you may feather the throttle, but for the most part you're on the whole time and you guide the car. But here at Darlington, you got to jerk it in, you got to stomp on the brakes at just the right point, get right back on the accelerator, which is something that Kenny is used to doing in the shorter wheelbase open wheel cars.
Well, his talent as a sprint car driver really shows through here. I think that this, as you say, this track is mostly driver as opposed to a place like Talladega where we'll be in May, where it's mostly race car and horsepower. Definitely a lot of driver effect there. There's three good ones together. That's Elliott and Bodine behind Kenny Schrader as the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot.
Interesting conversation with Gary Nelson, the crew chief on Bodine's car. Remember last year, Bodine and crew, they led so many races. Now we've got trouble in turn number 4. Looks like Michael Waltrip. Michael Waltrip, who was hoping for a good performance here today. He is fresh off of a win in the ARCA division. and they're looking forward to running the Winston Invitational. The Domino's Pizza people have been assisting them throughout the 1987 season, and Michael seems to be improving each and every week wherever he runs, but he has spun in turn number 4, but no significant wall contact. We do have a yellow flag this time. Well, that's a shredded tire coming off there. So far, I don't see any body damage, Jerry.
Well, I think possibly he may have shortened it up a little bit there. You see the fenders rubbing along the pavement as he comes by, and that right front tire has completely gone away. And you're right, apparently the rear of the car did escape the wall. So kudos to Mike Waltrip, the young driver who's a former Charlotte Daytona Dash Series champion and ran for Rookie of the Year last year, only to be edged out in the last few races by Alan Kulwicki.
Well, something that we started yesterday as a service for those of you at home who like to keep score. First caution of Darlington International Raceway in a Winston Cup car in 1987, lap 23, and all the leaders are coming in. I'm a little surprised, but I guess I shouldn't be, having watched so many of these races through the years.
Well, I'm sure they'd like to get this early caution flag, and a lot of the crews are enjoying this. They're going to get a chance to pull those tires off and take a look and see what kind of tire wear they're getting. A lot of unknowns here. The new pavement, you said, and Goodyear came in and made a tire change. The left side tires on the cars are the ones they run at Daytona, where they run speeds of 200+ miles an hour. The right side tires are the ones they run at Michigan. So they've made a completely different tire adjustment because of the new asphalt, and now the engineers will be very busy in the pits.
We have a hookup with the Gary Nelson Jeff Bodine radio, and we were trying to get tuned in so that we could share with you at home what's going on during this pit stop, and there may not have been any conversation because this is reasonably routine for these Winston Cup crews. When they came in, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. You heard it was probably Gary Nelson shouting, "Go, go, go," and that may well have been the only part of the conversation, except when the yellow came out, I'm sure Gary said, "We coming in?" The answer was yes. Jeff said, "Here I come off of turn number 4 and I'm in," and that might have been all that was said until the end.
Well, radio communication is extremely important now because the driver really can't see that well what's happening on the car as far as its servicing is concerned. And the most important part of the service is those fuel cans. The guys getting both cans of fuel completely in the car, getting the car completely gassed before they leave pit road.
Well, this yellow flag on lap number 23 disrupts an otherwise cautionless Darlington International Raceway Grand National Winston Cup race.
Work. Nobody said it would be easy. So Red Wing makes shoes tough and rugged and comfortable, even if you walk 20 miles a day. Nobody said it would be easy, but Red Wing makes it comfortable.
We have had a caution flag the first of the day here at Darlington International as we go inside of the Hardee's car cam, inside the Hardee's car with Cale Yarborough.
Cale is a Jerry Punch with ESPN. Do you read us, Cale?
Well, what's going to change with two cars, Cale? We didn't need chains all four. We had cars coming off the corner.
Cale having a conversation with his crew chief there, Jake Elder, and apparently they are trying to get that car dialed in. Cale made a couple of
what we should have done is dump those fuel. You've been out and lead the race. And Robert 23 left.
Well, they're discussing how they could have led this race if they stayed out, but I think Jerry, the best idea was that everybody needed to come in, and as you pointed out, there are so many new variables this year here at Darlington that everybody needed to come in and check that out. And we also had a report that Yarborough had a loose lug nut in his one pit stop. By the way, other people in the top 20 we did not get a chance to mention before the yellow flag: Gant, Labonte, Baker, Sterling Marlin, Shepard, Phil Parsons, Darrell Waltrip, Cale Yarborough, and Kyle Petty. Those were other people outside of the top 10, but inside the top 20 before the yellow flag. Ricky Rudd takes over the lead here as we go back to green. An
Excellent pit work by Bud Moore and the crew on that Motorcraft Ford. This is the car that Rudd finished second in about 3 weeks ago at Rockingham, or 4 weeks ago at Rockingham, and he leads the way here at Darlington.
Now, we have seen many times on a Winston Cup race how the changes that are made by the crews during a pit stop really affect the on-track performance of the machines. Even though we had those 5 dominant cars before the pit stop, that does not necessarily equate to who will be the dominant cars now. Right now, Ricky Rudd leads. That's Bill Parsons in second, and that is the Greg Sachs brothers, number 50, Greg Sachs running in third, and Earnhardt is fourth. Now, here's another service we're going to hope to provide for you in 1987, a pit stop summary. This shows you the top 5 cars in the race as the yellow flag flew and what position they came out of the pits in. You can see Earnhardt dropped from 1st to 4th, Davey Allison from 1st to 5th, Kenny Schrader all the way down to 21st position. Just a horrendous pit stop from 3rd to 21st, Bodine back to 10th, and Elliott back to 8th. But we might add that they all did a lot of work, Jerry.
Indeed, and Kenny Schrader's probably the least experienced crew of those 4 or 5 there. But here's the yellow flag recap. You see on lap 23, car number 30, Michael Waltrip spun Larry, and the caution flag out for 4 laps.
There is Dale Earnhardt testing Greg Sachs and the Dingman brothers, number 50. The Dingman brothers have come from road racing. They have been observing what's going on in Winston Cup racing in terms of the money and the attention and the interest. So they've decided to make the plunge full time in 1987. And right now, Mr. Sachs, the guy who won that surprise victory at Daytona a couple of years ago, has given it a pretty good ride.
He is indeed. This is his 4th time at Darlington. But watch Earnhardt now, the veteran, begin to work over the young driver, Greg Sachs. Earnhardt now trying to intimidate him a little bit up in the high groove. They'll get Sachs to bob and weave a little bit. One little mistake, and Earnhardt will get by.
But Jerry, he's taking his time. Earnhardt is being cautious.
You know, I think Dale Earnhardt is indicted a lot by that being too aggressive or being somewhat overly aggressive. And the fellow who's been affectionately called the Rambo of stock car racing, I think has calmed back a little bit. His driving style has been quieted a little bit.
There is Davey Allison going to the inside of Earnhardt. Davey says, well, okay, Dale, if you won't take it up tough to Greg Sachs, I'll do it. But now Earnhardt gets him back right away.
I think Dale just gave Davey Allison a little bit of a lesson in how to go into turn 3. Davey went in really hard. The car went beneath Earnhardt, but then skipped up across the racetrack. Dale just turned the car left and went right back by. I think Davey will remember that next time he goes into turn 3, that you have to really feather the car a little bit.
They look like 2 turns. Okay, it's 4 turns, but in reality, here at Darlington, there must be 8.
It's a tremendous racetrack. No 2 turns are identical here at Darlington. It's an egg-shaped oval, 1 3/8 miles, and now Earnhardt now beginning to climb in on Greg Sachs. And you got to give a call to Greg Sachs, the Mattatuck, New York former modified ace, doing a tremendous job.
Ricky Rudd continues to hold on to the vanguard. There goes Greg Sachs. He goes underneath Bill Parsons, and Greg Sachs reaches his high water mark of this race so far. There goes Earnhardt underneath Bill, and Davey Allison is following. 367 laps. The weather has been threatening all weekend here. It rained very hard Friday night. Yesterday we had bright, sunshiny days for the Grand National race. The Weather Bureau has said that if rain hits Darlington, and they are predicting it, it will happen sometime this afternoon in the vicinity of 3 o'clock.
Here's a battle back in the pack. That is Darrell Waltrip in that bright orange and white numeral car number 17. That's Waltrip leading the pack. Morgan Shepherd in the Quaker State car. The Oldsmobile, the Kenny Bernstein-owned team, is in there with Waltrip in the battle. And that's Richard Petty, of course, who needs no introduction, the 7-time national champion. And Morgan Shepherd, given the 3-time Winston Cup champion, Waltrip, all he can handle right now. That's the battle back in the pack for 16th and 17th spot. Waltrip in 16th, and here's a move to the inside by Morgan Shepherd.
Rusty Wallace is right in front of them. He was one of the top 6 cars in the early stages of this race. I'm a little surprised to see Rusty back so far, but almost everybody is on the same lap with the leader, so it continues to be a very competitive place. Morgan Shepherd.
And Richard Petty making a move. Petty sliding by Waltrip, but you got to figure Darrell Waltrip has had some handling trouble. They have had trouble getting that car dialed in. It's a brand new team, Larry, and we talked a little while ago. You know, Waddell Wilson and Darrell Waltrip are two superstars in their own right, and together everyone said this has to be the super team. They'll be unbeatable this year, but they've been a little bit humbled early in the season.
Yeah, they have, Jerry, but you're right. Because it is Waltrip and Wilson, everybody is sort of holding back and saying, well, we won't pass judgment until about lap number 15. Race number 15. Dale Earnhardt looks like he's getting ready to put the move on Ricky Rudd. Ricky Rudd, who won at Atlanta, has been leading this race since the one and only caution flag of 1987 here at Darlington, but right now he's about to undergo his first test. Well, I guess that was easy.
You know, Earnhardt has been so strong here, and Ricky Rudd, unwilling to give the lead up, battles back on the back straightaway. Now Earnhardt says, I'll push the button and go on by. Earnhardt extremely strong. It looked like Rudd just threw out an anchor there in turn 3 as Earnhardt slipped by him by 2 car lengths.
Jerry, it's got to be chassis as we go back to Lake Speed, the number 1 car of Sterling Marlin, and the number 7 car of Alan Kowicki. These are people also running back around 15th position. I was about to comment on Earnhardt. That chassis seems to be working just right because he can carry it into 1 and 3 seemingly further than everybody else.
What is so remarkable about Dale Earnhardt, and a lot of drivers will clock him during the race, and Richard Childress told me yesterday, he said he never varies. He is so consistent on the racetrack. He may run 300 laps less than 0.05 of a second apart. Every single lap he runs is very close to the lap he ran before.
There is Dale Earnhardt now up to the front where he has been so many times this year. He has led, remember, more than half of the laps.
Come away with me and uncover the secrets of the well-traveled. Come away with Travel Pages. Complete travel guides available free with road maps to all the best places for food, fun, hotels, you name it. This traveler's finger could be yours, finding just what you're looking for. So call for your free Travel Pages and join the world of the well-traveled. For that perfect vacation, call 1-800-654-TRIP and you're on your way.
Powerful punching, bruising action on ESPN's Friday Night Fights. Each week, ESPN is your ringside seat to see today's best young boxers exchange blows. Count on championship rounds of top-ranked boxing live on ESPN.
Well, there was some concern before this race started about tires because with the new surface, Goodyear just had not been able to test tires. They didn't know for sure what was going to happen. Well, the tires that they took off Earnhardt's car had been going 155 miles an hour. Goodyear's Phil Homer took a look at it and just went, it looked terrific to him. Richard Childress took a look at it. He said it looked terrific. In fact, the tires look so good, the Childress gang has saved them. They're going to use them for later in the race. Scuff tires seem to be working best here. Tires are going to work out just fine this afternoon. Down pit road, my colleague Gary Lee has another story.
Well, Dick, I have a set of tires here in the Davey Allison pit that could also be reused. This is the tire off the left rear. Here are the tire wear indicators. Look at this. 23 laps down, this tire could go another 23, maybe even 50 more laps. Now, you talk about the cost of racing. These crews go through $750 when they change all 4 tires. And the team that can afford it, they change the tires. They can reuse it if they want to. This one probably will not be reused. However, the lower budget teams have to go as long as they can with the same set. But once again, Goodyear apparently found a good compound for the new tread here at Darlington.
You know, I'm curious for those of you down in the pits, are you hearing anything about the racetrack? The racetrack appears to be a little more consistent from where we sit. There's not that bump down on number 4. Is there any conversation at all among the crews as to what the drivers are saying about the speedway?
So far, really aren't saying anything about the speedway as such. The big concern seems to be with Dale Earnhardt, who is absolutely disappearing with this race. He is so strong here, Larry, just as he has been in every event so far. He's the only guy to have led every race on the circuit so far in 1987, and he really looks tough today.
Jerry, what about Earnhardt, Richard Childress, Kirk Chalmerdine? What do you think that their secret to success is. Why have they been so superior to everybody so far this season?
I think Richard Childress was one of the first car owners to begin to build his own race car. Now, everyone else farms the race cars out and has them built by somebody else. But Childress has his own cars built, and that's probably one of the secrets of success, is that they know exactly what to put in the race car. Pretty good battle on the racetrack, Larry.
Bill Elliott, who was running in the top 5 in the early stages of the race, has gotten underneath Bill Parsons. Buddy Baker tries to follow him through, and by the way, they're right up there. That's 5th, 6th, and 7th. 5th now for Elliott, 6th for Baker, and 7th for the number 55 car of Bill Parsons. Greg Sachs really turning in a fine performance, is 2nd to Dale. Ricky Rudd is 3rd. The number 28 car of Davey Allison is 4th. And as we mentioned, Bill Elliott is in 5th position.
Buddy Baker, who ran so well early in the year at Daytona, had a 4th place finish down there. Finished the season last year with 3 consecutive 5th place finishes. And I think the addition of Doug Reichert and his crew, in his pits, as a crew chief, who moved over from Neil Bonnet and Junior Johnson, that team last year, has been a tremendous asset for the Baker team.
There is a car painted very similar to Greg Sachs' Dingman car, the number 75 car, another Valvoline-sponsored machine. That is Neil Bonnet in the Raymount car, and Benny Parsons moves under him. Benny Parsons gets underneath Neil Bonnet, and Jeff Woodine tries to emulate that. Different kinds of approaches there on the screen. Benny Parsons, easily the biggest surprise so far of this season. The number 75 cars, we see Bobby Allison putting the moves on here again. Bobby Allison picks up a position. The number 75 car of Neil Bonnet, they're trying to reconstruct some old glory. The only 2 races that the Raymock team has ever won has been with Neil Bonnet behind the wheel, and Jeff Woodine, they're trying to toe back just a little bit. They're trying to hone down the exuberance and the excitement that they raced with a year ago and trying to win races rather than lead. There is Bobby Allison. We just saw him trying to make a big move.
Bobby, the oldest driver ever to win a NASCAR stock car race. Did it at Talladega last year at the age of 48. Now he's 49 years of age and trying to move to the front. And here's a good move by Morgan Shepherd. Shepherd driving for Kenny Bernstein in the Quaker State Oldsmobile moves by Harry Gant. Apparently Gant continues to have problems. They have had a monkey on their back for months now.
1.366 miles around, but it often seems like it's about 10 miles around because you have to fight this raceway every inch of the way. Morgan Shepherd in the middle of the screen in the bright green car. Jeff Woodine leading that pack down the front stretch, the 1/4 mile front stretch. Even though it's a mile and a third around here, the straightaways are only 1/4 of a mile long. Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet. Once upon a time, Bonnet was recognized as Bobby Allison's protege, but no more. They are without question peers.
This car that Bobby Allison has here at Darlington is one of the oldest cars that the Stavola brothers have. In fact, Allison said the car had to be brought out of mothballs and brought back to run here. You know, the car he had here last year was a pretty good horse. He finished 3rd in this race and 2nd in the Southern 500, but he felt like they maybe could improve a little bit on that, and I guess Bobby's the kind of race car driver that's always competitive and wants to move closer to the front. So Bobby's got a new crew chief this year, Jimmy Finnig, a 33-year-old fella who was an ASA crew chief for Mark Martin the past couple of years, and prior to that, Larry, Jimmy Finnig was a crew chief for one of Bobby Allison's short track campaigns. So now he's got someone different behind the wall. He's running pretty well here today.
And they call that car Old Faithful for some of those reasons that you were just mentioning. 51 laps into this race. Again, scheduled to go 367 if the good weather holds up. At this point, nobody feels the necessity, like that man right there, Terry Labonte, driving for Junior Johnson this year, to charge to the front. They all feel like they cannot contend with Earnhardt, at least to this point. But they're all going to school. They're trying to learn what works best in the race car. They'd like to have another caution in the near future to come back and make some more adjustments and see what is the best way to go for the end of the race.
Here's the battle 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's Ricky Rudd. There's 3 Ford Thunderbirds together. Rudd, the red car, number 15, and of course the rookie driver, Davey Allison, in the car number 28, is 4th. And 5th, of course, no introduction for Bill Elliott, the fellow who won $1 million here back in 1985, a couple of years ago, that Winston Million. And they're moving in on Greg Sachs.
I'll tell you, Greg Saxo, this is without question his finest performance so far of 1987. But the big question is, can he sustain it?
Now, for the first time ever, get into the world's fastest cars on 3 exciting new home videos.
Hi, I'm Kenny Bernstein, and I want to tell you about a real special offer. Bobby Rahal, the 1986 Indianapolis 500 champ, shows you the ins and outs of IndyCar racing. Rahal shows you what it takes to become a champion. Are you a NASCAR fan? Winston Cup champion Darrell Waltrip takes you from the workshop to the winning line and beyond. And in this video, you'll be my guest for the most complete and exciting guide to drag racing ever made. I'll show you what it takes to go from 0 to 100 in just over a second, plus tips and secrets and much more. Each video can be yours for only $19.95, but that's not all. Order now and you receive absolutely free a copy of my book, Kenny Bernstein Explains Drag Racing. This full-color guide features over 90 pictures and sells for $5.
Call now, and this book is yours free with any purchase. Call 1-800-922-4400. That's 1-800-922-4400. Motorsport Videos, only $19.95.
Car has been the world's best-selling car 4 years running. To us, it's also one of the world's best values. Because for about the same price as the leading Japanese imports, you can get this car with air conditioning, power mirrors, and premium sound system. Features the Japanese imports don't include at the same price, making Ford Escort a much sounder value. This is Escort.
Now get 3.9% financing plus $600 cash back from Ford.
Driving down the highway, always on the move. When you're driving with Big A, you know the road ahead is smooth.
Your local Big A Auto Parts store has the parts you need when you need them. At Big A, we know that if the parts are made right, they'll perform right. That's the Big A reputation.
Riding with Big A, you know the road is running smooth.
Big A, the first letter in auto parts.
There have been only 3 leaders in today's race. That man right there, Dale Earnhardt, Ricky Rudd led some green flags, and Dave Marcus led 1 lap under yellow when all the leaders pitted.
And there's a picture of Dale Earnhardt, the fellow leading right now. And I mean, he has been dominant here early on at Darlington, but the battle is back in the pack. And there you see the cars that are trying to move their way to the front. That is Bill Elliott and Benny Parsons, along with Phil Parsons back in the pack. Elliott currently in 5th spot overall. You see a glimpse of Jimmy Means' car, the Turtle Wax Chevrolet back in the pack. But the cars coming at you there, that Valvoline hood, that is Greg Sachs. And a pass in turn 1 for 4th spot, or 3rd spot.
And there's another oil company being represented as Davey Allison goes underneath Ricky Rudd. So it's Sachs, Allison, Ricky Rudd right there. And right behind him is Buddy Baker. You see him moving into the picture. So Baker having one of his finer performances. On the super speedways, particularly with Doug Rickard being around, you expect him to excel, but it really hasn't happened yet in 1987. A couple of glimpses at Daytona, but nothing really that was withstanding.
Well, they had a 4th place finish at Daytona, but they really were hoping to win down there or run better. But Baker likes this racetrack. It's a demanding track, and he's a very physical specimen himself, 6'4", 240 pounds. He likes to manhandle the race car. And there's the Crisco Oldsmobile now moving toward the front. So Baker's a veteran. Until Baker moved in there wasn't anybody in the top 5 over 34 years of age. Baker is 46. Rudd is only 30 years old, so it was all a young man's sport up front.
Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt continues to motor away. As a matter of fact, he leads 2nd place Greg Sachs by over 8 seconds, 8.2 to be exact. The Hardee's Car Cam, Cale Yarborough, taking you for a ride around the Darlington International Raceway. The Bullseye Barbecue machine with Ron Bouchard behind the wheel up front.
And you see Yarborough now taking his time, being very careful to calculate the move past Ronnie Bouchard. It is still a 1-lane racetrack, or 1-groove racetrack. There are 3 or 4 lanes, but now Yarborough on the straightaway. There's the way you want to make the move. You want to try to get by him on the straightaway, but Bouchard closes the door.
Jerry, can you believe that we're riding with Cale Yarborough? How many times in a Winston Cup race in the last 2 decades has he been 25th position?
I tell you that he's got to really be feeling that he's just had trouble all day today so far. And he's getting his team together, but He is a veteran here. He's won a number of times. Yarborough 5 wins here at Darlington, but he's never won this race.
You can see the heavy traffic they're in. Alan Kowicki is the next car up front, just ahead of Bouchard. Should Cale be successful getting by, you can see that Alan Scarby once in a while just kind of creeps into the picture. All three of them look to the high side. They're going around slower traffic as they go around the DK Ulrich car. DK himself behind the wheel this week.
We might explain to the viewers that the reason Yarborough is back in the field is in an early caution flag produced by the Michael Waltrip spin. He made 2 pit stops, and that second pit stop put him at the tail end of the field, shotgun on the field for the restart, and he has had trouble. Now, traffic is extremely hard to get by here in Darlington.
There's just some terrific shots as you ride around. You can see how quickly the wall goes by. The painted stripes on the side give you that sensation of speed, and believe me, you can see where the groove is. The groove is reasonably wide as 2 lanes go, but the problem is you can't get outside of either of those 2 lanes at any one point.
About 3 or 4 feet up in the banking in what they call the marbles, and there's Dave Marcus making a move inside Yarborough, so definitely Cale having a problem and Marcus having a pretty good run.
Dave Marcus running for Helen Ray. They had 2 cars as they began the '87 season. His teammate Bill Barksdall was involved in a spectacular crash through the tri-oval at the Daytona International Speedway during the qualifying races for the Daytona 500.
You see Yarborough moving that steering wheel to the left. He sort of pulls it down, lets it slide back, and pulls it back again, trying to set the car coming off the corners. Now it's throttle to the floor. You see him vibrating up and down in the seat as the wind whipping that net to the left side. And Yarborough just trying to keep the car from skipping out from underneath him. He just about had the rear end go around and coming in the corner there. He hangs on to it and shows a lot of skill here at Darlington.
Greg Sachs continues to hang in there. Now, I wonder, does this mean anything for the end of the race? Is everybody else holding back, Jerry, or do you think that Sachs, after whatever changes they made in that car, is that strong compared to the rest of the field?
You know, no one really thought much about Greg Sachs this week. He has to be the sleeper, obviously, but he has a veteran crew chief. The Dingman brothers, of course, who own the cars, are not that familiar with stock car racing, but Sachs definitely, with David Iff behind the wall, who has been with a number of teams, including the MC Anderson team, I think the Blue Max team, a number of teams, Jack Beebe he's worked with in the past. He knows a lot about stock car racing, and I think he's putting up front.
Well, running very close, right there knocking at the door is Davey Allison, and Gary Lee has been following that story.
How many times have we heard the phrase, hindsight is 20/20? Well, right now, the Davey Allison crew is saying, you know, we shouldn't have changed those tires. We didn't have to. Right now, they don't like the fit they have on the race car. Davey is calling in that the car is tight. He cannot pick up the throttle where he wants to coming off turn 4. Consequently, they are eager for that next caution to bring him in and change the stagger. They say he can run a little faster. Right now, he's holding his own in 3rd position, but they are not happy with the tires and the handling of car 28.
2nd, 3rd, and 4th on the screen. And if Davey Allison is not happy, boy, if he gets pleased, he may be one of the few cars who can contend with Earnhardt, who, by the way, has stretched his lead to about 1/3 of a lap. Allison really looks hungry right now. Sachs goes into that corner just a little high, but does not leave quite enough room for Davey to get by. Dick Berggren.
Well, Davey Allison's not the only guy who wishes he had a different set of tires on. Dale Yarborough's team also has the same problem. They've got a set of tires on the car that are sized improperly. The car's not running as well as they like. They say if they get another chance to change tires, the car should run quite a bit better.
That tight battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Baker is the veteran of that. He's watching Allison sort of try to work over Greg Saxon. And Davey apparently can get the car cut a little better in the corners, but he doesn't quite have the horsepower to get off the corners. And a tremendous effort by Greg Sachs.
Working on lap number 70. Rudd is 5th. Elliott is 6th. Benny, and we got a spin. It's Davey Allison. Davey Allison loses control in turn 3. Just barely touches the outer cement. No contact with any other machines. Davey Allison running a competitive 3rd place. Stayed on the handle just a little too long going into turn number 3.
And the yellow flag being displayed here at Darlington as the field coming by for caution. There's a scramble back to the yellow flag. Davey Allison getting some sheet metal damage. They pass across the start finish line at Haviland Ford. Let's Let's take a look, Larry, and see what happened with A.V. Allison. He was running in a tight three-car battle. There is Greg Saxton, Allison, and Baker. And Baker and Allison, whoops, looks like they may have had a little bit of help there. As Davy's car gets sideways, smoke from the car, Baker goes high, misses him, and Allison will come up and just pop the wall there with the rear of that Ford Thunderbird.
That's a tough break because certainly that ruins a set of 4. Also a little bit of damage to the rear spoiler. It looked to me like, Jerry, in close inspection, maybe we can take a look at it again, but it looked like that Davy might have started that on his own. Like he lost a little bit of control, which slowed him down, a move that Buddy really didn't anticipate, and Buddy had nowhere to go except touch him, and just a little nudge at 150 miles an hour in a high bank 20-degree turn and you're sideways.
Yeah, it's hard to get those cars slowed down, and as Baker was trying to do. Here is the leader, Dale Earnhardt, making his way to pit road, and we'll see what kind of pit work that Lou LaRosa, Kirk Shelberding, and the crew can work. Let's go down in the pits to Dick Bergeron.
Well, I think you can pretty well count on this being a 4-tire change for just about everybody. Everybody seems to be using used tires today. The used tires, the ones they've just gotten scuffed in, seem to be more adapted to this racetrack than what are called sticker tires. Brand new tires. Sure enough, Earnhardt's got 4 new ones going on. Down the road, Bill Elliott's in the process of putting 4 tires on. Up and down pit road, just about everybody's doing it. Gary, what's it look like down to you?
We are down here with Davy Allison. He wanted the yellow, but he did not want to be the one to prop the yellow, which he did. They're changing the right side tires now. They had wanted to change the stagger. They top out the fuel. There are no other adjustments being made to the chassis. A 4-tire change, and they top out the fuel for Davy Allison in the Hamilton number 28. So let's see now if they can get a better stagger setup and better handling for the second-generation driver.
And in looking at that rear spoiler, I think I called it was probably damaged. It was not. Somehow he touched the outside wall, but did not damage the rear spoiler, and that could really have upset that car for the rest of this race. But by not hurting that, he might have escaped here.
Well, you need that downforce on the rear of the car to keep the car stable in the corner, but apparently he just got a little bit of sheet metal damage, and there's the yellow flag still being displayed as a safety car with the lights on. And here's inside one of the cars, the pit stop taking place up for Cale Yarborough, the Hardee's race cam. As Cale Yarborough getting the windshield clean, we're watching the crew now trying to signal to Yarborough.
Right now, Jerry, he is one of only 2 cars on pit road. There you see how desolate it is down there. Only about 20 spaces forward is Darrell Waltrip still sitting in the pits. So when you know that when there are only 2 cars down there, some extra work is being performed.
Well, 2 of the veterans having their trouble today, and there is Alan Kulwicki. He has had trouble, and a left rear tire has come off the Z-Rex Ford. Kulwicki over just creeping along the apron, and you see that big hole in the left rear of the car. That's where the tire and wheel are supposed to be, and apparently possibly a miscue in the pits.
Well, Jerry, for the pole setter from Richmond, you know, this week he lost his full-time crew chief, and he's been trying to do almost all of the work and conducting and directing all the work on his own, and somewhere along the line, maybe there was a miscalculation, hard to say, but maybe a lug nut wasn't fastened properly, but the left rear wheel, you can see it coasting to a stop along the wall.
And you know, the car that his super speedway car that he wanted to run here was destroyed 2 weeks ago at Atlanta. This is the short track car. In fact, this is the car he sat on the pole with at Richmond, the car he ran 18 races last year, the one he nicknamed Sirloin because it was just so tough, a car he could run every week.
The Darlington International Raceway has not claimed anybody yet, but it came very close during this moment when Davy Allison, running in the top 5, went for a ride.
If you like racing, you'll love Stock Car Racing magazine.
Neil Bonnet, 33, Harry Gant, 11, Terry Labonte, Sterling Marlin, and 44, 21, Kyle Petty, 43, Richard Petty, and 83, Lake Speed.
Now let's take a look at the pit stop summary, Larry. Earnhardt, who was the leader, came in on lap 72. He came back out in first place. So again, a good pit stop for the Richard Childress crew. Greg Sachs running in second. Well, inexperienced crew, he's back out in 20th place after his pit stop. Baker running third, back out in second spot. Good for Doug Reichert and the crew. Ricky Rudd and Bud Moore's crew came in in fourth place, came back out in fourth, and Davy Allison, who spun the car, coming back out in 11th spot. So not a bad for a car that spun and tapped the wall, getting back out still up in the top 15.
One comment about Sachs losing 18 positions during his pit stop, spinning on the backstretch.
Yeah, that can be a disadvantage here because you may get caught by the caution car, too. There are identical pit roads on the front stretch and back straightaway, and depending upon where you qualify, if you qualify out of the top 20, as Sachs did, you have to be relegated to the back pits, and so you can't really get an idea of what the other crews are doing.
We might also comment about the reason why a
about half of the field is on the backstretch. We mentioned that the straightaways here are only 1/4 of a mile in length. This track wasn't designed or constructed with the contemporary needs of contemporary Winston Cup teams in the pits in mind, and that's why we've had to divide the field from the front stretch to the back stretch.
Well, there's a race on the track and a race in the pits as the Unocal gas cans are getting a workout here as they are working down on pit road. Let's go down to our pit reporter, Gary Lee.
Well, we're indeed in the fuel center. Now, unlike CART or IMSA, these crews cannot have a big fuel reserve in their individual pit area. So after every pit stop, the crews have to come down here with these 11-gallon dump tanks and top them off and then cart the heavy fuel back to the pit area. So after every round of pit stops, this is probably the most active area on the racetrack aside from the competition on the track itself.
And if you want to see an interesting race, at the very beginning, when all the cans are full and they're all being held at the Union Station there, they are not released to go to the pits until the green flag drops. As soon as the green flag drops, suddenly it's like an Oklahoma land rush. All these carts pulling gas cans headed for their individual pits. It's something to see.
And you know something else? If it's only 65 cents a gallon, I want to fill up before I go.
Yeah, let's get down there.
65 cents a gallon, I'm sure it happens to be what just is on the machine right now that is not necessarily representative of what the fuel really costs. Looks like we're going to be going green the next time around. You can see that Dave Marcus is pulling up to the inside of Dale Earnhardt. Not because he thinks he's in second place, but because he has lost a lap. He pitted under the green flag just before the caution came out, and Marcus, who has been credited with leading one lap here today, by the way, is now one lap in arrears.
Here's the yellow flag recap. Of course, the first yellow flag on lap 23, that's the Michael Waltrip spin. Lasted for 4 laps, and now we're under caution again. Lap 72, it came out for Davey Allison for 7 laps. We're getting ready to go back to green, and again, who else but Dale Earnhardt will lead them down.
As we anticipate green flag, let's also anticipate the possible rise of Ken Schrader. He's on the outside. He's 7th in line. He's behind the green car of Morgan Shepherd. Remember, he came out in 20th position after the last pit stop. In just a minute, I'll tell you why.
We'll get a chance to see if Buddy Baker can handle Dale Earnhardt. There's Earnhardt pulling already by 3.5 to 4 car lengths over Baker out of turn 2. There's the lap car of Marcus, and Baker running in second spot just in front of Marcus. And now back in the pack, Benny Parsons makes a challenge in turn 3. Parsons apparently getting fresh rubber. They have gotten that car dialed in for the Folgers team, and Parsons will make his run toward the front.
Earnhardt, Baker, Benny Parsons, Ricky Rudd, Phil Parsons, and Ken Schrader, I think, is going to be the man on the move. There he is on the outside of Dave Marcus right now. Remember, Marcus is a lap down, and Schrader seems to be rising to the top.
That's Kenny Schrader back in 7th spot, just in front of the lap car of Marcus, and he's trying to move in on Morgan Shepherd. There is Shepherd in 6th. That's Phil Parsons in the lap car. The 5th place car, of course, is Ricky Rudd, the red Ford there coming by. But Schrader now trying to move his way back toward the front.
Jerry, the reason why was Schrader pitted for the first spin by Michael Waltrip. He took on 4 tires, whereas many of the other top teams only did 2. This time, he only changed 2 tires, so the stop took less time, deposited him back into the top 10 rather than into the top 20.
And there's a shot of Bill Elliott now staying single file, and you see Elliott out of the Kodak film car cam. That's the Rick Wilson car, and Elliott trying to make a move inside Rick Wilson.
Well, I'm with Butch Stevens, and he's one of the tacticians here. He's one of the astute race watchers on this circuit. He also works with Bill Elliott. Butch, can anybody do anything with Earnhardt?
Not right now, but it's still early in the race, and this is Darlington yet, so we're just playing a waiting game. My car is just a little bit too tight right now, but a little bit later, I think we'll be all right.
Can you fix it with tire changes?
Oh, yeah. There's no problem with that at all.
Well, it's all calm in Bill Elliott's pit so far. It's a long way to go.
82 laps are now complete. Halfway in this race will be 184 laps. Remember, the ultimate goal is 367. So we have at least 100 green flag laps that must be completed before this race is declared official.
And I will tell you that the sky is still very overcast. You can see the gray there out the back window of Rick Wilson, but it's a little brighter. The clouds have not parted, but they've gotten thinner. And you see Rick Wilson now moving by on the inside. The car number 27 and 29 having their own battle on the racetrack. That is Rusty Wallace and Cale Yarborough. Let's go inside Cale Yarborough's Hardee's Oldsmobile and see what he sees. There's the rear deck of Rusty Wallace. See the dirt and debris on the windshield. They tried cleaning that windshield during the pit stop. That's about as clear as it's going to get all afternoon. Is Cale now waiting to make his move on Rusty Wallace.
Well, Rusty Wallace's team has already won a race this weekend. Last night, their sprint car team won in Metrolina Speedway just outside Charlotte before one of the biggest crowds that racetrack has ever seen. Rusty today is going to try to do the same thing. Now, he's already been here and tested. They spent a whole day here testing with a car that Tim Richmond had finished second with a couple of years ago. But believe it or not, after a whole day of testing, they decided not to run that car. They decided to try this one instead, and they hadn't tested this one at all.
There's a look at Rusty Wallace, the pilot of that sprint car. Look at Cale Yarborough that won last night. Would have been Sammy Swindell, unless they pulled off one of the biggest surprises so far of 1987.
And here's Yarborough trying to make a move, and he can't quite get by as Wallace now jumps back in the throttle and pulls him by 2 car lengths. You know, the car that they had here before, Rusty Wallace and them, they tested as Millie. That's the one they named Millie. That's the one Tim Richmond set the qualifying record here a couple of years ago in. This car they went home and got. This is Vanessa, one of the older race cars they have. And they ran this car earlier in the year at Rockingham, finished 6th, and finished 3rd at Atlanta a couple weeks ago in this car. Didn't Waltrip start off this business with naming the cars? Whatever happened in the good old days is just getting in it, driving it till the wheels fell off, and then junk it. Let's see if Cale Yarborough can get by him. Cale's got the move on the inside, and you see the car cam watching Rusty Wallace working that steering wheel, and Cale did a masterful job. Here comes Rusty back. Not quite enough. The Pontiac Kodiak car falls back in line behind the Oldsmobile of Cale Yarborough. An excellent view from that race cam, exactly what happens when you pass a car. And an outstanding job by our car cam operators to follow the car of Rusty Wallace as they came by. You saw him moving to the inside, and we saw the camera spin around and see Wallace trying to go back underneath him. It's still a fascinating place. As you look at Darlington, it looks like it'd be 5, 6, maybe even 7 lanes wide as you go into the turns. But from day one, there has been something about this place, the way it was shaped, the way it was banked. It turned out to be just the 2 upper lanes were the only ones that the modern, contemporary 150-mile-an-hour plus machines can operate on. When they first started here back in 1950, everybody tried the bottom, and it worked for some of them, but not since they've accelerated up above 125 miles an hour. Well, apparently Buddy Baker has had enough of Dale Earnhardt's rear deck, and he's trying to close in now. Baker in the Crisco car, running in second spot, and there's the differential between Earnhardt and Buddy Baker. Some 7 car lengths now as Baker trying to reel him in. Get an idea of just what the speed is. They come out of turn 4, Larry. That speed as they come by over 160 or 155 miles an hour. And apparently the track doing real well. The groove getting up real high, though, as Baker and Earnhardt both run in the upper groove. It's a very interesting moment in this race because few times in 1987 has anybody run down Dale Earnhardt when he was in the lead, but Baker is really doing the job right now. Buddy Baker turning in an outstanding performance. You know, this car Baker has here at Darlington is the same car he had in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. And if you remember in Atlanta, the car began to sputter early on, and he exited early in the race. They found out they had a plug wire that had burned against the manifold. They came here with the same car and the same engine, but with new plug wires. Let's go down to the Baker pit with Gary Lee.
Well, nobody likes to run a super speedway more than Buddy Baker. Doug Richard is the crew chief, and obviously you're able to run right with the leader.
Well, right now we are. We just put 4 new tires on and changed the stagger configuration slightly. We're getting feedback and very good lap times off the car. So we just hope to run a real good, consistent race for the Crisco Old.
Buddy has caught Dale. Will he pass him? Does he want to lead?
If I know Buddy Baker the way I think I do, if he has the opportunity to lead this race, we will. We're going to run this race as hard as we can to put our Crisco Olds up front.
All right, car 88 looking for the lead with Buddy Baker.
You're looking at the number 9 car of Bill Elliott, the number 15 car of Ricky Rudd.
They are 6th and 7th right now as they have pulled back onto the track and racing hotly contested in the top 10 here in the first third stages of the race at Darlington. Bill Elliott, Ricky Rudd there. Mentioned that Rudd has been one of the few people to carve into the successful season that Dale Earnhardt has had so far. And Bill Elliott is a man. Buddy Baker looks like he may want to pass Dale Earnhardt.
Baker, who lives just across the lake from Dale Earnhardt down in near Shaw, North Carolina on Lake Norman, really mixing it up here as Baker getting within 2 car lengths and trying to make a move. Now Earnhardt apparently has had enough of that and said, okay, I'll see you. And Baker not willing to let him go.
I got a feeling that Dale Earnhardt is not at 10/10 as the race drivers are wanting to say. He's not exactly playing with Buddy Baker, but I got the feeling he's not extending himself. Difficult to tell with Buddy. He's a Cajun veteran. He may not be extending himself either, but if either one of these guys is, it's Baker.
Yeah, I think Buddy Baker definitely would like to get out front. He has been frustrated. The team has come together, and Baker is the kind of driver. He's like an Earnhardt or possibly a Morgan Shepherd or a Cale Yarborough. He's the kind of guy he wants you to tie him in the seat, tie the throttle down, and let him just hang on and drive all afternoon.
Dale Earnhardt still up front. Buddy Baker, who has led 2 other races, although the race at Rockingham, it was just a courtesy he led 1 lap under yellow. He did lead 45 laps at Daytona, but this is his strongest performance since that time. Baker is also one of 4 drivers, incidentally, who ran in the then Rebel 400, a race for convertibles, which was almost 20 years ago to the day. Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and James Hilton are the other 3. There's Dale Earnhardt. You can see how many laps he has led this year and the preponderance of the percentage that he has. And by the way, that Rebel race in 1967 was run by Richard Petty. One of the services we provide you here on ESPN's auto racing coverage are the track facts. This is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil with QSX. Quaker State Motor Oil with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.
Race teams take good care of their engines. This $20,000 motor is the difference between winning and losing. Some of the things that they do here might even be able to help you on the street. One of the things that they do is to change the oil often. After every race, as a matter of fact. They've got a little advantage, though. They can take samples of their engine oil and send it back to their sponsor, who will evaluate that oil and be able to determine a great deal about the internal condition of the engine. They also warm that oil up quite a bit before they ever put the engine under a load, something this team says you should do in your street car as well.
98 laps are now completed as you go down inside the Quaker State pit. There are the leaders, Dale Earnhardt, Buddy Baker, Morgan Shepherd now running 3rd, Benny Parsons 4th, and Phil Parsons is 5th. There's the remaining top 10. We'll be back.
Heaven on earth. Don't get them started.
Larry Newber, along with Dr. Jerry Punch, Dick Berggren, the editor of Stock Car Racing Magazine, and Gary Lee at the Darlington International Raceway, a storied old place. And so far, we haven't had extreme excitement. The racing has been very good, though, Jerry, and the surface, I think, is really getting a passing grade.
I think so. I think the crews are extremely happy, and the Goodyear people have done a tremendous job of bringing the tire here that's going to work well for the cars. And there's the man of the hour, the man of the year so far, Dale Earnhardt. He's been a tremendous force, dominant in 3 of the 4 races we've run this year, and dominant here today.
You know, we were talking about why is he better. We mentioned that earlier, and you mentioned about Richard Childress designing his own chassis. You know, all of these cars traditionally have run ballast. The frame rails are empty, and to get the car up to spec so that it weighs properly, you put lead weights in them. Well, very few people rebuild cars over the winter, but to make the cars lighter, you know where they had to take the extra weight from. As we look at Buddy Baker, still a contending 2nd. They took it out of the lead weights that were in the frame of the car. That also had the effect of moving the center of gravity higher, which meant that the cars didn't get as good a bite on the speedway.
And here's the battle back for 3rd spot between Morgan Shepherd and the Kenny Bernstein car. That's the green and white car, number 26. And just behind him, Benny Parsons, driving in the substitute role for Tim Richmond. That's the car that Richmond won 7 times with last year. The Harry Hyde prepared machine, the Chevrolet. And that's a battle back for 3rd spot.
Morgan Shepherd, his best finish so far this year has been a 5th. He had a crash at Richmond. Benny has had really the best season of the two of them. As you know, he came reasonably close to pulling off a big one at the Daytona International Speedway. But Shepherd, he was 6th at the restart and has moved up to 3rd and held his own.
Well, you know, Benny Parsons, who finished 2nd at Daytona, you know, you won a qualifying race there at Daytona and then finished 2nd in the Daytona 500. He had a 34th place finish at Rockingham. He was involved early on, had problems there with the engine. He finished 10th at Richmond and again 2nd 2 weeks ago at Atlanta. So he has had a tremendous year thus far. That team's an outstanding team, and could you think what's going to happen when Tim Richmond gets back in a few weeks?
Shepherd, as you can see, he has now joined the fraternity of 1 million plus winners, but there must be about 35 now, Jerry, who are up into that category. Buddy Arrington, as a matter of fact, one of those people is up there, so that gives you an idea of how much money is available in Winston Cup racing these days. Benny Parsons, a former champion of NASCAR seasons in the past, and they called them the Grand National, now the Winston Cup cars. And Benny has really had a rebirth driving this Folgers car for Rick Hendrick, and Harry Hyde has really played a prominent role in that. Morgan Shepherd, on the other hand, with the Kenny Bernstein mount, I think that they have struggled a little bit this year. Morgan, of course, is the kind of guy who likes to do a lot of hands-on craftsmanship onto the machine. And when you have a guy like that who's a race driver, he goes to a team, it really does create some teething pains, because some drivers just like to show up and drive the machine and not really have a physical, hands-on, touching aspect in terms of preparing the car, just in an advisory capacity. But Morgan is not that type. Dick Bergman is down in the pits with another developing story.
Well, Rick Wilson is having problems with his engine. In fact, he's had problems today with 2 engines. When they fired up this morning before this race, Wilson lost the engine in the car right in the garage. They lost the camshaft. And right now, they're down to 7 cylinders in that automobile. You can see the gauges are not reading exactly what they should be reading. They say, however, they're going to keep that car on the racetrack as long as they can, try to keep giving us those great pictures they have so far today.
Yeah, Dick, they really have. Both of the car cams have worked quite well, and we hope that you certainly are getting more than a taste, maybe a big swallow, well, a big gulp here at Darlington as to what it's like to be out there. They're following Michael Waltrip. Michael, seemingly not the worse for the wear for the spin that he had a little earlier. He moves down and allows Rick Wilson to go by.
Rick Wilson has had some super runs over the year. As we're looking from inside the Kodak car, and apparently we're getting a report that something may be coming from beneath that car. You heard Dick Bergman say they are having trouble. They've lost a cylinder, and maybe they're losing something else besides a cylinder. As a little smoke from beneath the car a lap or so ago.
The crews are all very skilled, Jerry, but when you throw one together the last minute, literally minutes before the race starts, the opportunity for error is great.
You know, Rick Wilson is a young driver. He's sort of a protege of A.J. Foyt. He's got into racing a few years back, and A.J. has been a tremendous help to the young driver from Bartow, Florida. But here's the lead battle again as Earnhardt continues to show the way, and Baker just trying to keep pedaling to keep up.
Running in 24th position and not too far ahead. No, he has been lapped. Darrell Waltrip, I got a note about 2 minutes ago that Darrell Waltrip was the last car on the lead lap, but while we were watching the action around the racetrack, Waltrip and Baker have put a lap on Darrell Waltrip. Darrell Waltrip has been lapped at speed, so we're now there. You see the bright orange car in the background. Here he comes. Waltrip down 1 lap, 23 cars in the lead lap. Waltrip and Cale Yarborough. Who would have believed that they would both be running down around 25th position and a lap down to this guy? But then again, I guess if you think about the season so far, it's no surprise. You see some of the other competitors in the top 10. Jeff Bodine is right there. Bobby Helen Jr. is right on the heels of Bodine.
There's Terry Labonte in the car number 11, the Junior Johnson car, and then Kyle Petty running back in the pack. Those cars doing battle as Jeff Bodine will slide around Michael Waltrip's car. There's a good look at the Terry Labonte effort. Labonte ran his first race ever in Winston Cup competition here back in 1978. He ran the Southern 500, and they didn't really tell him that rookies aren't supposed to do well here. He came here and finished 4th.
really interesting story, Jerry, that during that race, Labonte kept looking up the scoreboard between 1 and 2, trying to keep track of the laps because he was worried about that. But Labonte, there you see him right there in the left side of your screen, kept looking up at the scoreboard, watching the laps go by, never thinking to look at the first 5 positions. When he pulled in, he said, "Where did I finish?" And they said, "Terry, weren't you watching the board? You're 4th." This is the tail end of that pack that we are watching from the Hardee's race cam. Cale Yarborough with Harry Gant directly in front. Several of the people who are accustomed to at least several times during the year running up front are wallowing in like 10th through 15th.
You're getting a look at the rear of the Harry Gant car as Yarborough now working out of turn 2 and down that long back straightaway. The banking here 21 degrees. The straightaway is only about 2,100, about 1,300 feet, so they're very, very short straightaways and wide sweeping turns. And now Yarborough will try to sneak up and move to the inside of Gant. The Wood Brothers car, Kyle Petty, is directly in front of Harry Gant. Keep seeing glimpses also of Jeff Wadine's car. 19th right now is where Kyle Petty is positioned, and the leaderboard is showing Harry Gant in 20th position, Cale Yarborough in 21st. So Cale has picked up a little bit. He was back around 29th position. He was running with Darrell Waltrip a little earlier as they go to the high side of Eddie Bierschwal. But Cale Yarborough is not a lap down. I stand corrected. Only Waltrip among those old cagey grizzled veterans is the one who's dropped back a lap. But Dale Earnhardt will be closing pretty quickly on the Yarborough-Gant battle as he still sees the Gant car. You know, Harry Gant has had some tough luck. In fact, this team has not been able to finish a race since October of last year when he finished 4th at Rockingham. They've gone 6 straight races without a finish. And, of course, the most devastating race for Gant a couple of weeks ago when he was heavily injured in that crash at Atlanta. He hit the wall nearly head-on in turn 2, as there's Cale's car still at the rear of Harry Gant. That 3-car battle of Kyle Petty, Gant, and Yarborough. But Gant got a couple of broken ribs. He got a laceration across the tongue, and he's riding here with a special kind of harness. In fact, Gant had to go to the University of South Carolina. Bob Markham, the athletic director at South Carolina, had him build a special cage for Gant's ribs. He has the cage on it. It has an air bubble in the cage to protect those ribs over the broken areas so Harry could even get in the race car. So you've got to really give him an A for effort, E for effort today, as Gant's out there trying to run 367 laps with a couple of broken ribs.
He competed in yesterday's 200-lap Grand National Stock Car race, finished 5th, I believe, in that race. And if anybody needs an emotional lift in a Winston Cup race, it's Harry Gant. A real quick rundown for you as we continue to watch the progress of Kyle Petty and Harry Gant as they run in front of Cale Yarborough. Earnhardt continues to lead. Baker second. Benny Parsons is third. And now Yarborough goes to the inside of Harry Gant. Cale Yarborough makes his move and picks up 1 position in the field. And Harry Gant drops back behind Yarborough.
And you saw Harry Gant's car bob and weave a little bit. He just about got in with Kyle Petty there as Kyle was slowing up a little bit. And that was the opportunity Cale Yarborough needed. Here's the Kodak race cam as Rick Wilson now will bring his car in and apparently back toward the garage area. Wilson makes the left-hand turn and will crank it back toward the garage. And we had a word earlier that they had lost a cylinder and may have been losing some water on the track. Let's go down to the pits and Dick Berggren.
Good call, Jerry. That's a good guess as to what's happened. He's got a serious heating problem. Ordinarily, when you've got something of a heating problem, they'll put you right into your own pit area and shoot some water at it. These guys have all moved by the men's room so that, and they've moved down by the men's room here so that they can get access to a lot of pressurized water. I mean, a lot of water. They've got the hood up. They're going to try to cool this thing off. But boy, they are in trouble.
And you know how dangerous a situation like this can be. How many times has your private car overheated? You open the hood, you reach down there, ignorant as we all are on occasions, open up the radiator cap, and all of a sudden that hot water sprays you in the face. It happened to me one time when I was on the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'll never do that again, I guarantee you.
That can be dangerous. Here's the lead pack back up front as Baker now is reeled in Dale Earnhardt by a couple of car lengths, and we'll see if Baker can handle him again. Baker's car apparently pushing a little bit in the corner. He almost got into the concrete wall, almost got that Darlington stripe here that's so famous for, but he holds on, and it's about 2 car lengths back from Earnhardt.
We are now also at the stage of the race, 122 laps in, where both of them are going to go to school on each other. They figure that the race setup has already been revealed. Whatever they can show during the race, each team has probably showed it. The other team is figuring that. So now Baker's going to test Earnhardt. Where is he strong? Where is he weak on the racetrack? And Earnhardt is going to do the same to Baker.
Now Buddy Baker very smoothly through the corners, trying to keep the car as low on the track as possible and let the car drift up to use all the momentum. But Earnhardt, you see him pull Baker by 3 car lengths on the straightaway.
There you see them out of the back window of Cale's car. They're way in the background there. They are beginning to move up now and approach the rapidly moving traffic. Harry Gant separates Cale Yarborough from Dale Earnhardt, and Earnhardt and Baker are moving into the top 20. They'll approach Gant first, then Cale Yarborough, then Kyle Petty, and then Terry Labonte. This could be tricky.
Well, you see Gant move down now. He's been told by Travis Carter, his crew chief, that's the leader behind you. If you don't get the move, you're going to be a lap down here because Earnhardt's moving in. And what's going to happen is, next time by, Harold Kinder is going to be waving that move over flag as Earnhardt will not wait. He's going to move downstairs and try to go by Gant.
Earnhardt gets by. Gant moves in on Baker, but Baker doesn't let him in. Baker squeezes in there and also gets a lap in on Harry Gant. Now they look at Cale Yarborough. Many, many miles underneath the blistered hands of this veteran here at Darlington, but Earnhardt once again tries to make the same move from the Hardy's race car with Yarborough behind the wheel, but not low this time. Will he try it going into number 3? That's the backstretch. No, there's Kyle Petty. As Cale Yarborough is moved by Kyle, Kyle drops down low. He is in Dale Earnhardt's way. Can Baker take advantage? No, not this time.
Dale Earnhardt, the leader now in heavy lap traffic back in the field. He tries to move to the outside and will go by Kyle Petty, but apparently Yarborough has pushed the button. Jake Elder, his crew chief, has said, you better move. You're going to keep from getting a lap down, and Yarborough trying to hold off Earnhardt.
He has gone to the whip, Jerry, and I guarantee you it will take more than a suggestion to Cale Yarborough to make way for Earnhardt. So Earnhardt goes to the high side, and Earnhardt makes it look easy.
What a
Baker.
What a rocket ship. It looked like Earnhardt was just pressed the button and just shot right by him. And there's a shot from outside. You see Earnhardt and Baker, the heavy lap traffic. The next car in line will be Terry Labonte.
Terry Labonte and Jeff Bodine. So that gives you an idea as to how rapidly Earnhardt in the Wrangler jeans number 3 and Baker in the Crisco 88 Olds are moving. They are moving in on Junior Johnson's car and Gary Nelson's car.
Well, we're about 15 or 16 laps away from the next green flag pit stop, but it's very important for Earnhardt to put as many of these contenders a lap down early. He would like to get by Terry Labonte, the car just in front of him, and Jeff Bodine. He knows that both Labonte and Bodine can be strong late in the race, and now Earnhardt and Baker take a peek to the inside, but no, Earnhardt says, no, I'll stay in line here in turn 1. It's awfully slippery here in 1, but that's where Baker just about vaulted the wall a few laps ago. Now they'll try the high road.
Baker has decided, well, I will be Earnhardt's shadow, and unless somebody really gets in his way or he makes a major miscalculation, I'll stay behind. No, I am wrong. Baker looks to the inside. They're moving up on Jeff Bodine. Here's another guy who'll try to put the wrist lock on him. Bodine stays low. Baker has an opportunity. Coming down the front stretch. Will he dart down low? No, he thinks the better of it. He goes back up right behind Earnhardt. Cale Yarborough looks slow. He tries to pick up a position, and Jeff Bodine is now 1 lap down.
5 cars inches apart at 160 miles an hour, and Earnhardt did it the hard way. On the outside, just a couple inches from that concrete retaining wall. He did not get a Darlington stripe. What he got was Terry Labonte and Jeff Bodine 1 lap down.
Bodine is really slowing dramatically as Labonte and Yarborough each went by. This is about 16th, 17th, 18th position right now. Coming up next would be Neil Bonnet in the Raymont car. There's a little bit of real estate, however, between Bonnet and Earnhardt, but certainly not enough to withstand another 10 laps of cautionless racing. Dale Earnhardt and Buddy Baker are beginning to put it on the rest of the field. Will this be a 2-car race to the finish? Come back, we'll find out.
Motor Trend Car of the Year, Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. Ford consultant Jackie Stewart tells you why.
It's a rare combination.
In the speed category, there was an 18-mile-an-hour difference from top to bottom in last September's race. In this race, there were only 8 miles per hour difference between the pole setter and the last starting James Helton. Right now, down in the pit area.
Well, I'm with Rick Wilson here. He has parked the car, shut off the engine. You were giving us some great pictures, but we also saw your water temperature gauge go out of sight.
Yeah, we must have cracked the cylinder head or blown the head gasket. You know, when it does that, you lose all the water, and then the temperature gauge just goes crazy, and you got trouble then. You know, the track's in good shape, though. Everybody can really good race out there good today, and I just wish we could stay longer.
Well, they really tried to fix this thing, but you could see the water actually coming out of the exhaust while they were working on it. Larry?
Well, thank you, Dick. Dale Earnhardt and Buddy Baker continue to really dominate this race as a couple of cars are dropping low on the apron. The yellow flag may come out. As you can see, the number 64 car, Emil Langley's car, with Connie Saylor behind the wheel. Now the yellow comes out. There comes Baker. He's going to try and put one on Earnhardt, but no, not quite enough as Earnhardt holds on. Connie Saylor, I did see a little bit of damage to the right front of that car. Maybe we'll get a shot on him before this yellow concludes. Lap number 135 is going to be the lap number 136, I beg your pardon, is going to be the lap when the yellow flag is recorded. Baker pulls up alongside of Earnhardt. It's like the race is over. He said, hey, that was fun, wasn't it, buddy? They have a little bit of conversation, at least visually, between the two of them as they decelerate going down the backstretch. I wonder what that was all about.
Well, I think Earnhardt just motioned to Baker. He's going to pit, so Baker and Earnhardt now on the apron will head the pit road. This is a good time for pit stops because they were getting up to come up on green flag stops in about 8 or 10 laps, and here the leaders will come in. Here's Earnhardt and Baker, Labonte. Let's go down the pit road and Dick Berggren.
And they're getting ready to service Dale Earnhardt down here. They've been ready for the last several laps. These guys have not muffed one single thing on pit road all day. And we were talking about Earnhardt's supremacy. No question whatsoever that a lot of that supremacy is right here in this crew that works this car. They are the fastest in the business. Meanwhile, Gary Lee is down the road with Benny Parsons' crew.
I am indeed, and what a fortunate yellow for Benny Parsons and Harry Hyde, because the Folgers car was ready to come in under green when the yellow was displayed. It is a 4-tire stop. They top off the fuel with the two 11-gallon dump tanks, and the veteran is underway.
Guys, the big loser during this yellow flag, the man around the table, is Phil Parsons. He was running in 6th position, had to come in prematurely. He did it underneath the green flag, and Phil Parsons may not only have lost his position in the track, but I think he lost a lap. We'll see how it shakes down once this yellow is over.
I still would like...
And a bad break for Phil Parsons. I'd like to amplify just a minute on what Dick Berggren said about the pit stop for Earnhardt. Earnhardt's crew, they have pit crew competition every year at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham, and for the past 2 years, Kurt Shelburne and the Wrangler crew of Dale Earnhardt have won that competition.
Well, the yellow flag continues to be out. It looks like that Dale Earnhardt was the first one out of the pack. We'll see when we come back. So far, it's been an Earnhardt-Baker show.
The celebrated design of the Ford Taurus surrounds the driver with new levels of innovative thought. The result is a driving environment that not only makes its difference felt in here, but out here as well. After all, a car can't perform at its best unless the driver can. This is Ford Taurus.
Now get 3.9% financing on the award-winning Ford Taurus.
There's no place on earth that I'd rather be than out in the open where it's all plain to see. If it's gonna get done, it's up to you and to me. There's no place that I'd rather be. Head for the mountains of Bush. Head for the mountains of Bush.
Come on along. Head for the mountains of Bush beer. Head for the mountains, it's cold and it's smooth. It's waiting for you. Come on, head for the mountains of Bush beer. Head for the mountains of Bush. Head for the mountains of Bush
Earnhardt did get out first, as the graphic shows you. Lap 136, again the yellow. There are the first 5 cars before the yellow flag and how they came out. And look at the precision work, Jerry. First came out first, second so on, and only Bill Elliott lost some ground.
Well, Bill Elliott came in. I'm sure they made an adjustment on the car. He was running in the top 5 most of the afternoon. They wanted to make some adjustments on the car, try to get him toward the front. But Morgan Shepherd's cars had a good run. You just caught a glimpse of Darrell Waltrip's car, who had a lengthy stay on pit road under the caution. They were working beneath the front of that car. Waddell Wilson and the crew trying to possibly get that car to handle a little better, as we are still under caution here at Darlington.
Jerry, at the top of the show, we talked about how the face of the lady in black has been changed. Benny Parsons yesterday said, I guess she's had a facelift, but we don't know exactly how she will be treating the drivers here in 1987.
Well, that's the way the track looked before. The old sort of shiny, worn-out asphalt, and you see the pit road there. And then the trucks moved in. The heavy rigs came in to begin the demolition of what was a 37-year-old racing facility. And there's what it was, piles of dirt, gravel, and chunks of asphalt.
And it had developed some ripples over the years, and there were some tricky parts in this racetrack, particularly in turn 4.
Now it's getting a smoothing job, sort of the cosmetic work. They're digging the drains from beneath the gravel. They're going to lay new gravel, a new foundation. It's about 3 feet thick there, 4 feet thick, as you see now, the relief. There's the old press box that what was there for many years, and there's the new beautiful facility today. The Winston press facility in turn 1, air-conditioned suites there. And the new lady in black, or the track too tough to tame, is a beautiful facility today. Larry?
Yeah, she really is. Well, we're just about ready to go back to green, and we commented earlier in the race, it looks like they've made a 4 or 5 lane racetrack, but the way it's constructed, the way the ground was laid out here, it has retained the integrity of this racetrack. It is still something very unique in all the world of racing.
It is indeed a unique facility. It's a one-groove racetrack, and only a few people have the strength or courage to make it more than that. And one of the guys who leads the pack right now as the green flag is waving is Dale Earnhardt.
Bill Parsons on the inside in the black and white burgundy trim number 55 is going to attempt to hold his own, try to hold back Dale Earnhardt. He just cranked off a really good first and second turn. Phil Parsons gets out of this restart with about a 4 or 5 car length advantage on Earnhardt. This is where Earnhardt has been strong going into 3. Let's see if he can move in on Phil. Not that lap.
Now you see, go ahead. See the difference between Earnhardt and Parsons. Parsons' car begins to slide up, but Earnhardt is still about in the 3rd or 4th groove. What Phil Parsons would like right now is another yellow flag. Someone to spin, hopefully not him, but someone to spin so the yellow would come out and he could get in front and go around and stay on the lead lap. He knows he probably cannot hold off this guy for many laps.
Absolutely true, and Parsons will be giving it all. He slipped just a little bit going into 3. Jerry, you called how firmly the Dale Earnhardt car holds onto the racetrack. He scoots underneath.
Earnhardt looks like he's riding on a rail here at the racetrack. The car handling so well, it'll go wherever he wants to push it. As Baker now slides by Phil Parsons. And Benny Parsons back in the pack. He's beginning to make his move.
After the pit stop, Baker was 2nd, Benny Parsons was 3rd, Morgan Shepherd was 4th, Ricky Rudd is 5th. There is 3rd running Benny Parsons. Sterling Marlin was 6th, Bill Elliott was 7th. In running in 8th was Kenny Schrader. 9th was the number 28 car of Davey Allison, and 10th was 8 Bobby Hillen. Lake Speed had been in the top 10, but he had to make an extra pit stop. So Lake Speed is holding on. Dick Bergman is down in the pit area with an update from the Jeff Bodine pit.
And I'm with crew chief Gary Nelson. You guys are off the pace, Gary. What's wrong?
Well, I'll tell you, we've got all kinds of problems with the handling. Jeff says he doesn't know which way the car's going, so he's got to run it a little more conservatively to keep from crashing. We've already lost a lap. It's going to be a long day, I think.
I just saw one of the tires you took off the car. It looks virtually worn out. Is this something you can fix with tire changes, or is it more serious?
It's more serious. That's what worries us. That was about the length of a full pit stop, so we're going to have fresh tires every time we get gas, and that's because of the way the car's sliding through the turns, I think.
Boy, this is not a joint to have the car not exactly right. Jeff Bodine will have his hands full for the rest of the afternoon.
He is 1 lap down, Dick and Jerry, and I'll tell you another guy who's trying to do chin. We got a spin in turn 3, 2 cars up in the wall. One of them appears to be Benny Parsons. No, that's like Labonte also.
That's Terry Labonte, and he gets
Parsons
tagged.
is in front of him, and I think Benny Parsons was also involved. We've got a comment that
and that's Terry Labonte's car we see sitting
Benny
there.
Parsons is coming down the front stretch, so yes, Benny Parsons, you can see with damage to the right side of the car. A Darlington stripe, but it wasn't at the traditional place where you get a Darlington stripe. You can see how hard that Benny hit with the right side of the car. The car has moved over significantly.
and he looks terminal.
And that car should be finished for the day. A hard leg by Benny Parsons, a 46-year-old Ellerby, North Carolina driver. And apparently, there's a picture of Benny Parsons. He limps that car back toward pit road after contacting the wall. And there's Lake Speed. And he's getting an assistance from some of the safety crew as Speed will climb out of the car.
I think Lake was the third driver that was involved, and really disappointing for Lake because he needed a good finish, and it just wasn't to be. I think he may well have been an innocent victim. We also got a report that Morgan Shepherd is another car as well as Ricky Rudd.
Apparently, Labonte and Shepherd were trying to avoid the car of Benny Parsons. When Parsons contacted the wall, Labonte's car tried to get stopped, got sideways. And let's take a look and let's see what happened.
Remember that Parsons was running in third position. Contact has already been made, and Shepherd and Parsons are spinning, as well as Labonte.
There's Labonte, and he's already coming off the wall. He will get contacted again, looks like by Ricky Rudd, as Elliott moves by, Yarborough moves by, and the rest of the lap traffic ahead. So Rudd tags Labonte, and Labonte had already been tagged by Morgan Shepherd up against the wall.
And there is Ricky Rudd's car. We never did see exactly how Lake Speed got involved, but a really disappointing accident because it takes out 5, or at least involves 5 very top contenders. Have not seen the disposition yet of Morgan Shepherd, but he too is running in the top 10.
And there's 30-year-old Ricky Rudd, the fellow who won his 7th win of the year, and Morgan Shepherd climbing out of his Quaker State car.
We'll take a look at this from the in-car camera. I believe that we are inside of Cale Yarborough's car at that point.
And you can see Yarborough on the brakes as Rudd's car goes by him down below, and there's Morgan Shepherd's car spinning. Rudd does a great move to miss Shepherd, but then he can't get out of the way as Labonte comes right down in front of him, and Ricky Rudd has nowhere to go. He just tags Labonte, and he is again a victim here at Darlington, and Rudd's luck continues to be bad here at Darlington.
Boy, a graphic portrait of what can happen at 135, 145 miles an hour in a turn on a 20-degree bank corner. The cars that were involved were running 3rd, 4th, 5th, 15th, and 18th. We're going to show you that in-car replay again because it's so graphic, but this time at real speed.
Here we are at actual speed now. There's Rudd's car running along beside Yarborough. Yarborough will pass Ricky Rudd. Now they're in the banking. Yarborough hard on the brakes there. Rudd's car sliding by. Watch the move. Rudd goes to miss Shepherd. He misses him, but then here comes Labonte. Nowhere for Rudd to go.
Well, we never have had an opportunity to find out exactly how that unfolded. Pretty good effort right there on Cale Yarborough, but I think it's a matter of luck or no luck of the draw. You never know what card's going to come up, and the card that came up was just not one that would help Ricky Rudd make the pass that time on that circle of the table.
Fixing this water damage.
Benny Parsons, first aid attempting to be maneuvered and completed on that race car. Benny with both hands up in the air saying, boy, I don't know, boys, do your best, and I'll try and carry my load when we get back out there. Benny Parsons running in the top 3. Well, another one of the traditions on ESPN is to ask a question of the week, and we were able to get a very appropriate one here this week at Darlington.
How would you describe this track in a single word, if you could? Treacherous.
Maybe spooky.
Intimidating.
The Titanic.
Sneaky.
Tough.
She's tough.
Toughest track. Toughest one we go to.
I got a word, ditto.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Tough, intimidating is a couple of words used. Sneaky, as Schrader put it. Some drivers say she's like a rattlesnake. If you respect her and keep your distance, you're okay. But if you try to sneak up on her or be cute, it'll reach out and bite you.
You know, it really is interesting, Jerry, because a lot of racetracks are built in a lot of different ways, but every once in a while you get one that has just some tremendously unique characteristics, and this place is one. Now, Dick Bergman is down with Benny Parsons.
Benny, the old lady bit you.
Yeah. You know, I really don't know what happened either. I went in turn 3, and it looked like Earnhardt was a little bit sideways in front of me, and I said, you know, I better be careful. Maybe there's something there. About that time, the car just took off. I don't really know what happened.
Any idea if they can repair this automobile?
I didn't hear you.
Any idea if they can repair this car?
You know, we can probably repair it so we can go back on the racetrack, but I don't know if we'll be able to. I know we won't be able to run at speed, but we may be able to get back on the racetrack.
Are you okay?
I hit hard enough. I hit hard enough. I broke my shoulder strap that supports my head, so I hit real hard.
In case you couldn't hear that over the sound of the grinders cutting this car up, he said he hit so hard he broke the shoulder strap that holds his helmet on his head. That's about as hard as you can hit. They're working on the front end of the car. They're working on the rear end of the car. Even Rick Hendrick, the owner of this automobile, is in on this reconstruction project in the middle of pit road.
Jerry, sometimes, particularly from the angle that we have here above the grandstand on the main straightaway, and even on a lot of the in-car shots, it looks like ballet. But when something goes wrong, it is anything but something that has the class and grace of a ballet.
And the safety crews up there working, they are on the scene immediately. Let's recap again the cars, some of the cars that were involved in that, Larry. Of course, we mentioned that Benny Parsons spun. Apparently, as Benny says, he doesn't know what happened. Suddenly he's in the wall up in turn 3 and 4. And then the car number 11, Terry Labonte, spins. He is tagged by Morgan Shepherd, who comes across the track. Ricky Rudd misses Shepherd, but again tags Labonte. He is involved, and Lake Speed.
And just updating, we of course talked to Benny Parsons. We have seen the 3 other drivers involved. Terry Labonte, the report is still in the machine. Gary right now is with Morgan Shepherd.
We take a look at Morgan Shepherd's wrecked car as it's being pulled in. I think that was the case, Morgan, of being at the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Well, you know, it's just one of those things. It's a shame because Kenny Bernstein, Quaker State Buick, was running so good today. We worked our way up towards the front from 18th spot, and it was looking real good. But one of the lap cars, I don't know what happened up there in front of me, but they was racing, and somebody got together, and some cars spun in front of me, and I had nowhere to go.
Car is pretty well banged up, but you're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Sorry, Kenny.
Well, Kenny Bernstein definitely was not Mr. Shepherd's fault. The last report we got was that, yes, now they do have Terry Labonte on the stretcher. He is being removed. We are going to show you the incident one more time. Terry Labonte taking 2 very significant licks. He hit the outer retaining wall one time very hard, and then he bounced back across the track into Ricky Rudd, who struck the car. Appeared to be in the right rear quarter panel. Was that, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that's where Rudd hit him. Of course, Labonte initially trying to avoid the spinning car of Benny Parsons. So here we are again, out of the Hardee's race cab. We see he getting on the brakes. That's Cale Yarborough. Rudd going by, and we see Morgan Shepherd's car coming down. Rudd misses that one, but Labonte will slide right across in front of Ricky Rudd. Rudd tags him in the right rear. Labonte's car already heavily damaged from hitting the wall almost head-on up there. His car spins like a top and will come to rest on the track apron.
Well, we will continue under the yellow here. Terry Labonte's car is still on the racetrack between 3 and 4. There you have a picture of as they try to remove it, but we'll continue to update the situation, and we'll be back.
You heard, Jerry? Well, Jeff Hammond just turned to Kim Labonte and Terry's wife and said, you know, he's okay, Kim. His left shoulder's hurting him a little bit. And, of course, the straps will pull you awfully tight when you get spun around at 160 miles an hour. So hopefully that's the news we have. And there's what's left of that Budweiser Chevrolet after taking 3 impacts, one with the wall, a second impact from Morgan Shepherd in the right front of the car, and the third impact, a violent crash from Ricky Rudd in the right rear.
That was from the hospital. Right now, Gary Lee is with Lake Speed, another one of the people involved.
It is always difficult to talk to a driver that's had a good drive going for him. Now he's out of the race. Exactly what happened out there, Lake?
I think it's just a case of some guys that got together up in front, evidently on the restart, and we're all packed up so close, there just was no place to go. It's one of those things you try to stop best you can, but the guys that get to start stopping first are going to have an advantage, and when you're just that close, there's no place to go. But the Wins Kmart Oldsmobile was running good enough to win the race today. We know that. We went to the back of the pack and worked our way close to the front each time there was a restart. So we're very disappointed for a new young team starting out, but at the same time, we're very optimistic with the fact that the car ran so well.
So once again, we can see the damage in the background, but the driver is okay. Now let's go back to deck.
Well, I've just talked to the crew, and the crew won't say what the situation is with Terry Labonte, but Bill Kaiser, who is with the racetrack, just talked to me, and he said he's got a slight shoulder injury, but he is okay. Labonte in the hospital now with his wife at this moment.
We might also add that the reason why the helmet was on, they tried to keep Terry as immobile as they possibly could, so they got him to a point where a physician could actually observe him and work on him.
Yeah, that's a trauma protocol. They keep the helmet in place, put a collar around his neck. They will strap him to what's called a KED, a Kendrick's extrication device, to keep him immobile as possible and get him in for the trauma doctors to go over him from head to toe.
We continue under yellow here, but we anticipate going back to green in probably less than 10 laps, maybe as few as 5 laps. As you can see, Dale Earnhardt has come back under the speedway after this lengthy yellow flag. He continues to lead here as he's done so many laps this race again. Richard Petty there motoring around. He has lost a lap to the leader. Dale Earnhardt, as you can see, leads Buddy Baker, Sterling Marlin. Kenny Schrader is now 4th, and Bobby Hillin Jr. is 5th.
Heaven on earth. Don't get him started about his car.
Hey, Pete, toss me the Quaker State. This new Quaker State with QSX is a miracle. It gives car-carrying people superior engine protection. Look at the sludge conventional motor oils leave behind. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And that means I might spend the rest of my life in heaven.
Warned you.
Your Quaker State hero, reaching for the best.
Ever modifying clauses or phrases you would like to apply to Darlington, plug one in, because it just claimed 5 of our top competitors in this event. We are ready to go back under green as we predicted. Harold Kinder looks the field over. He looks at Dale Earnhardt, shakes his hand yes, waves the green bunting, and we are back at speed.
Again, Dale Earnhardt will assume the point, and Buddy Baker will assume the chase. As Baker runs second, the third-place car is Sterling Marlin. Good run for Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont Airlines effort. That's the same car that he finished 13th in a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta, and he has never had a really good finish here at Darlington. He finished second last year at Daytona in July, driving for Hoss Ellington, but he has not had a good run. Sterling Marlin, the blue car at the back of that field. What you see now, Baker trying to get by the lap car of Phil Parsons. Parsons, the black and white numeral, car number 55. And there's Sterling Marlin in the car number 44. Marlin, 29 years old from Columbia, Tennessee, a former Rookie of the Year on the tour. Now trying to find his way around Phil Parsons. Parsons done a lap, trying to hold on, but just wasn't enough steam underneath the number 55 Coke car's hood, and Phil Parsons was not able to get his lap back. By the way, there you can see that red and white black numeral number 90, Ken Schrader. Remember, he qualified on the pole. He ran strong in the first segment of green flag of the race. And Ken Schrader has worked his way methodically back up to 4th. He has not been in a challenging position for well over 100 laps, but Ken Schrader is definitely a factor in this race. Here is Darrell Waltrip. He, on the other hand, has not been a factor in today's race. He is in 19th position, 1 lap behind, and Dick Bergen is on top of the story.
And I'm with Waddell Wilson, his crew chief. Waddell, what's wrong with the car?
Well, when we started the race, the car was pushing. You know, we come in and changed tires and then went back out, and everything seemed to be pretty good. And all of a sudden, it got real loose, and he couldn't drive it. So we're trying to figure out what's wrong with it. We don't know if something broke or... You know, we really don't know. We're just kind of guessing right now, going by what he's telling us, and trying to desperately to do something to help the car to get it to where he can drive it.
And this is no racetrack to be loose. It's a very tough racetrack to drive, and a car that's loose is a car that's looking for an accident.
11 cars remain on the lead lap. Again, repeating, one of them is not that man right there, the tide ride, Darrell Waltrip. In the last 10 TranSouth races, he's had 4 wins and 4 seconds. Really incredible record here at the spring race.
Now let's take a look at the battle for 4th spot between Kenny Schrader. The battle for 3rd between Kenny Schrader and Sterling Marlin. There's Marlin in 3rd spot, and Schrader now closing within a couple of car lengths. They have both gone by the lap car of Phil Parsons and the pole sitter, former sprint car champion from USAC, Kenny Schrader. Now, both these drivers are former Rookies of the Year here on the NASCAR Tour.
Another driver who seems to have
found a little bit of what was lacking in earlier laps is Jeff Bodine, but it's probably too late because Jeff is in 12th. He is the lead car that is one lap down. He is ahead of this pack of cars right there, being led by Bobby Hillin Jr. You can see Ron Bouchard in the bullseye car. There goes Cale Yarborough by, Davey Allison, Bobby Allison, the two Allisons, father and son, make that son and father, running bumper to bumper. And Bill Elliott, surprisingly, Jerry, he just hasn't been with the program as far as the first three lead cars go. And there's a shot from the in-car from the Hardee's car cam as Cale Yarborough now showing the car on the banking as a couple of cars running back behind him. You see how close Cale gets to that wall. And you see Bill Elliott back there making a move. The car very far back there, the red car. And now Bobby Allison now trying to make a move inside his young son, Davey. And we have more sunlight today, and it is 3:30. This is when the Weather Bureau said it was supposed to rain. We've got more sunshine right now than we've had at any time today. Despite that very long caution flag, the weather has brightened up a little bit. There's Ron Bouchard trying to have a pretty good run from Hoss Ellington's team. Bouchard now trying to work over the rear deck of Bobby Hillin. That's Hillin, Bouchard, then Cale Yarborough, then about 3 car lengths or 4 car lengths back to Davey Allison.
Well, Larry, your comment on the weather is very, very important. One of the things I've discovered about the new surface here at Darlington is that the weather seems to impact the way these cars run here more than other racetracks. A good example, on Friday during practice, one of the best teams went out, and it was nice and bright and sunny as it is right now. They brought the car in the garage, a cloud came over, the crew chief sent him out, said, drive it just the way you just drove it for me. He drove it, he lost half a second. Now, the teams are telling us that this racetrack is very much affected by weather, and a lot of these teams are struggling trying to get the cars sorted out. The sun is coming out more and more as the afternoon wears on. That's exactly the opposite of what the Weather Bureau had predicted.
And as the sun comes out, the track is black, remember, has a tendency to get hotter. The track could become more slick, although the air temperature is pretty pleasant, Jerry.
Well, it is fairly pleasant. I'd say it's probably in the mid-60s here, and they had threatening skies all day, but I think we will see probably real interesting now to see if Dale Earnhardt's car will handle a little bit differently. We see Cale Yarborough now still hanging on to his car, and he's having a handling problem most of the afternoon. But up front, it's Dale Earnhardt and Buddy Baker, the two cars that have been up front most of the day. Dale Earnhardt. Really, that's all that you have to say. I mentioned that all you have to say when you... Oh, and there's trouble. Earnhardt is touched. I think that's Walwack. He was trying to put a lap on him. And Walwack and Earnhardt almost come to a meeting there on the front stretch. Yeah, it is Bobby Walwack and Dale Earnhardt with a very anxious moment. Wow. I tell you, there's an indication of why that guy wins races. He has tremendous ability, and he has tremendous confidence in his ability.
Not a mark on the car.
Well, he got on the inside of Walwack. I think he surprised Bobby Walwack. Let's see what happened as they're coming out of turn 4. Walwack is a solid yellow car, the number 77. Here we are. Here's Walwack, the first car, and of course Earnhardt getting underneath him. Walwack's trying to move down out of the way, but Earnhardt goes to the inside. So Walwack nudges him to the sideways. Earnhardt gathers the car back in, back and forth, left and right, wags the tail, gets it under control. Just another day at the job.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Walwack was moving. It was in the process of moving down, and Dale, would you call a little bit of being over anxious? Maybe so. Decided to go to the inside. Walwack wasn't getting out of the way soon enough. There is 44, Sterling Marlin, in the Billy Hagan, Wayne King Piedmont car, and our pole setter, number 90, Ken Schrader. They are having this discussion for third place behind Buddy Baker, right at the bottom of your screen. You can see how close they are. Dick Bergman is right now with Kirk Shelmerdine, and he may have a comment on what just happened coming down the front stretch.
Well, let's call it Richard Childress. He owns the car. Richard, what is the story with the automobile now that you've had contact?
Well, it's all right, I think. We'll have to look at it when he gets back in here. It didn't hurt the car because he's still running as fast, but we just hope he didn't knock the fender down on the tire or nothing.
Well, it looks okay for Earnhardt, guys.
I'm sure they had to be anxious moments in the Wrangler pits as Richard Childress saw his driver. You know, a couple of weeks ago, he was dominant at Atlanta just with about 30 or 35 laps to go. The car just shut off in the back straightaway, and it happened an alternator problem. And so they lost juice from the battery, had to come in and change the battery.
Kenny Schrader has been bird-dogging Sterling Marlin since we went green after the big crash between 3 and 4. A couple of laps ago, he took a look to the inside. It looked like he had about a quarter of a car length. But when you're in the middle of a corner and you
You have a quarter of a car length at Darlington. That's not enough. That is not enough. Two former rookies of the year. Of course, Sterling Marlin won the Rookie of the Year title in '83. Schrader won it in '85. Neither one of these youngsters have won on the Winston Cup Tour. And they're in good position right now to win. If something would happen, of course, to Earnhardt or Baker, they're running back for third and fourth spot. Kenny Schrader, as a matter of fact, to let you know how much of a shiny pin he is, he has won just barely over $500,000. If things continue to go as they are this year, he will probably exceed that total in this year alone because he has been a constant fixture in the top 5. Bill Parsons is behind this duel. Remember, the two of them are looking toward third place right now. Bobby Hillin is fifth, almost halfway through. Officially, 5 different drivers have traded the lead back and forth 7 times, but really, it's the only man that has mattered all day long. He has had a comfortable lead, sometimes approaching 1/2 lap as the yellow flag is out. No word exactly yet as to what the reason is. We see no incident on the speedway, no smoking tires, apparently no spinning cars, but the yellow flag is out here on lap 178. Now we're getting a report that Kyle Petty was showing some smoke from the engine compartment about a lap ago, and maybe NASCAR officials somewhere around the racetrack are saying, hey, there's something shiny on the track here, we need to throw out the caution. Yeah, NASCAR in extreme safety precautions here. If they would think that any fluid would be on the racetrack, they'd put the yellow out because this track is tough enough to drive when it's bone dry. But yeah, here is Kyle Petty, the car number 21, smoking, and possibly, Larry, you might have been right. Possibly the Wood Brothers car may have had an engine problem or lost some fluid, but anyway, we're under caution, and here comes the leader. Well, Earnhardt's got to come in because he's got to check the condition of the car after that little sachet, and Dick Bergman is there.
Yeah, we've been here all day, actually, and we're going to watch this crew do their acrobatic ballet again, and it's going to be yet another 4-tire change. And once again, pit road is a total mayhem. Everybody is here. Everybody has got exactly the same strategy. Change 4 tires, try to get a set of tires that's going to fit with the changing weather that we are experiencing here. There is right now a loose tire on pit road. Allison's crew just got it. Schrader came in, took no tires, gone, and here goes Earnhardt, the first of the 4-tire change leaders out.
Very interesting maneuver on Kenny Schrader, Junie Dunleavy's crew. Bob Johnson decided we're not going to change any tires. We're going to go for the lead. 179 laps are now in the books. 184 makes the race official, but I don't think we're going to end prematurely. The weather looks good. You know, I think we're going to go all the way, and Schrader, an interesting philosophy of maybe what happened in the Kenny Schrader pits. Let's go down to Gary Lee in the Kenny Schrader pits.
Junie Dunleavy is the car owner for Kenny Schrader. A very interesting strategy. You didn't change tires.
Well, we had just changed tires a few laps ago, and he said the car felt real good, so we just figured we'd give him some gas, let him keep getting.
Obviously, a few seasons back, you took a chance on an open cockpit champion from the Midwest. It's paying off well now.
Boy, it's really doing a great job.
Big smile on his face as he talks about the job being done by young Kenny Schrader from Benton, Missouri.
And while we are discussing the Ken Schrader situation, Davey Allison has come in for a second pit stop. Richard Petty remains in the pit area doing full service, 4 tires, completely refilling the car with fuel, of course. The yellow flag remains out. Neither one of those guys appear to be in jeopardy, and we will certainly be back. Off of the NASCAR radios, the verb dusted was used in reference to Dale Earnhardt exiting the pit area, and the NASCAR stop-and-go official. Penalty was just 1 car length. They put Dale behind Buddy Baker. I didn't see the incident, but it must have been thrilling for a second.
Well, apparently they're drag racing down pit road, and the man at the end of pit road with a stop-and-go sign, the NASCAR official has him. He sort of the traffic cop. He directs them back on the racetrack so they don't pull out in front of someone and get creamed. And apparently he had the stop sign up, and someone didn't stop.
Ready to go green. Kenny Schrader now leads. He'll be officially scored as the leader of this green flag lap. The caution flag, by the way, coming out on lap number 179 for those of you trying to keep up at home. Jeff Bodine, who has really been showing some of the muscle that we saw a year ago, has been running right with Buddy Baker for the last 30 or 40 green flag laps, and right now Jeff a lap behind separates Baker second in this race from Ken Schrader on your left, now coming right at you as the leader. apparently Gary Nelson and the crew have gotten Bodine's car dialed in as they're really shuffling back in the pack, and that looks like Bobby Hillen. It is Hillen in the car number 8. He went 3 car lengths to the inside, trying to make a move on Phil Parsons. That is Hillen in the car number 8 and Bouchard in the 1. But back up front, it is Schrader, the leader. We have not mentioned Bobby Hillen in the spotlight once today. There he is in the spotlight at 22 years of age, and Bobby Hillen, yes, is on the lead lap. Right now, he is running in 4th, I think at 5th position, coming up this time for the halfway point. Halfway this time, Harold Kinder leans down, nods his head again to all the leaders. They understand the race is now complete. Well, it's complete if we had rain and had to stop it, but we still got 367 total laps to go. So
Absolutely.
We're halfway there, and looks like Bouchard is trying to make a move. These two guys are having a ball back there. Here's Bouchard on the inside of Bobby Hillen.
Bouchard is 1 lap down. It's Schrader in 1st, Buddy Baker in 2nd, Dale Earnhardt 3rd, Bobby Hillen 4th, Sterling Marlin 5th, Bill Elliott 6th, Bobby Allison 7th. The number 75 Rayma car of Neil Bonnet is 8th. Richard Petty is 9th, getting his lap back. Greg Sachs is 10th. And 11th is Davey Allison, also on the lead lap.
And Schrader just about tags the wall in turn 1. The rear of his Thunderbird slides sideways. Now he is off the pace a little bit. Here will go Buddy Baker by him. There's Jeff Bodine sliding by him. And hopefully Schrader may have a tire going down. We'll keep an eye on Kenny Schrader's car. He definitely is slowing in turn 3.
Well, maybe that decision, that strategic decision of not to change tires during the last yellow flag was an error.
Well, here's Baker, the leader, and Bodine, the lap car. Earnhardt in the 2nd place car. We'll watch Schrader again, and the car does bob and weave again in turn 1. So I guess Bob Johnson and Judy Dunleavy on pit road have got to be watching that car and thinking maybe we do have a tire problem, possibly a tire going down. Maybe we can get one of our pit reporters to check on that with Bob Johnson or the car on the Dunleavy.
I might add, Jerry, that in normal situations, I said, is that an error? In normal situations, it would not have been. The car is not acting like old tires. It's acting like a tire that's been damaged by debris in the track. Gary?
Joey Knuckles is the crew chief for Davey Allison. What's the problem with the left front?
Well, when we spun earlier in the day, we bent a little something in our steering component. The tie rod's rubbing the oil pan, and we just jacked it up and knocked the oil pan up just a little bit for clearance. He was having trouble coming off the 4th turn over there. But the Havoline 4 Thunderbird, we're going to come on and overcome all this and win this car.
But during that pit stop, you were penalized, were you not?
Yeah, I had to have that many guys over the wall to fix the car, but it didn't hurt us because it was under caution anyway.
You've heard him speak of optimism. They're going to win it yet, he says.
Well, somehow Davey's been able to hold on to the lead lap. There is Davey Allison working on the inside of Greg Sachs. They're running right behind the number 27 car of Rusty Wallace, and Rusty is 1 lap down. Today's mid-race recap of the TranSouth 500 here at the Darlington International Raceway is being brought to you by Napa. Those of you keeping score, we hope that this provides a great service for you. The leader at the time was Buddy Baker. The margin was just 1 second. The average speed had dropped down to 125.2 miles an hour. Officially, NASCAR said there had been 8 leaders. 10 times the lead had changed. A recap of the yellow flags. The first one, a harmless spin by Michael Waltrip. The second one, harmless also by Davey Allison. Then a 2-car spin, and then the big multi-car accident. The yellow flag was out for 12 laps. Terry Labonte was the most seriously injured in that incident, but appears to be only minor injuries, a shoulder. There was a yellow flag for 4 laps on lap 179. Oil in turn 4. We believe it came from Kyle Petty. Out of the race officially, Dave McDuffie, the first one out, then Tommy Ellis in the Friedlander car, James Hilton, Steve Chrisman, and Rick Wilson, one of our camera cars, brought to you through courtesy of Kodak. Then Rodney Combs in the Die-Guard machine, Dave Marcus, who led a lap here today, Jonathan Edwards, Blake Speed involved in that crash, Terry Labonte, the primary player, Ricky Rudd was also in the 5-car crash, as well as Morgan Shepherd, and the man whom we believe is Taylor.
He's got his spin now developing on trouble in turn two. That's Greg Sachs who spins the car out of turn 2. The Mattituck, New York driver had the car spinning. He kept the car down as low as possible on the track, and the other cars have gone around him.
Great break for Schrader. Schrader definitely, there was something missing underneath that hood of Judy Dunleavy's Ford, prepared by Bob Johnson, and now Schrader. Look for him to duck in.
And here we are just exiting turn 1, and you see the car just tapping the wall. That is Sachs' car scrubbing now across the wall. He brings it off the wall, tries to keep it tightened, but the car spins. That's Rusty Wallace's car number 27, the Kodiak car, going by him above. He will slide back up on the racetrack, Sachs, as other traffic now splits him. There's Gant making a move to the inside, and here comes Alan Kulwicki by.
You know, you look at this racetrack like we did Friday morning at 6 a.m. in the mist. It appears to be about, a football field wide, but you see these guys at 150 miles an hour. It looks about 2 inches wide.
Well, you got to give credit to Greg Sachs. He kept the car from going back up in front of lap traffic and kept it out of the wall. So we'll watch for Kenny Schrader to make that valued pit stop. You just cannot run with these fellows when you don't have fresh rubber. And there's the car that spun earlier back on the racetrack. That's Greg Sachs, 33-year-old Mattituck, New York driver who won 2 years ago at Daytona, the biggest upset in NASCAR history. Running awfully well earlier today, but got caught back in lap traffic with some of those pit stops, and he's had his troubles.
Well, has Earnhardt had another successful day as we take a look at Greg Sachs, former modified racer? Well, we've raced 184 laps the last time that NASCAR did some summary work for us here. And the leader of 164 of those 184 laps was number 3, Dale Earnhardt. Schrader's still out on the track.
Well, Judy Dunleavy and the crew are ready for Schrader on pit road. Dunleavy getting ready to bring his driver in. This is indeed a break for Schrader, and they are giving the signal 1 lap to go. We'll be back under green next time by, but apparently Schrader will make that move on the pit road. No, Schrader stays out.
Meanwhile, coming in are Richard Petty, and it looks like Bobby Allison ducks into the pits with just 1 lap to go till green, and Allison has been a threat to the top 5. This could hurt his chances severely.
Well, gas only for Richard Petty as the field moves by, and Schrader could not take advantage of this yellow flag. And what a tough break for him. The car ill handling. They needed to get fresh rubber at least on that right rear, and they just didn't get in.
What I didn't understand, Jerry, is why he didn't come in the very first lap, because the yellow came out when the leaders were on the backstretch. Schrader seemingly had enough time to at least pit on the second time around. Dick Bergman is down there. What's the story, Dick?
Well, actually, Larry, the story in the situation is that Schrader is telling his crew it's not the car that's changed, but the racetrack. Schrader has told them perhaps somebody is dropping oil on the speedway, but the handles just went away on the automobile. They were planning to make a pit stop. They were going to try to do it right, but they got less of a yellow flag than they anticipated. It blew it away. Up pit road, Gary Lee has another story.
Well, actually, we've heard the old adage about a race can be won or lost in the pit area. There was a drag race out of the pits between the number 3 car, Dale Earnhardt, and the 88 car of Buddy Baker. Buddy apparently had just an inch or 2 advantage. So a NASCAR official pointed to the number 3 car and said, "You go behind Buddy." We thought perhaps there was a penalty. There wasn't. It was just a drag race out of the pits, won by car 88.
Green flag. Jeff Bodine will labor to get his lap back. Keep your eye on the Levi Garrett number 5 machine as he drops to the low side of Buddy Baker. That's where he started. Jeff Bodine, for him, every single lap now is the white flag lap. If he can stay there, he perhaps can get his lap back and get up there and maybe go to racing with Baker and Earnhardt. Both of them know it, and they're going to try and put him back.
Jeff Bodine's car up on the outside groove, trying to hold off Buddy Baker. The car slip and slide out of turn 4. Bodine extremely loose.
It's pretty obvious that Jeff Bodine is carrying that car. Transmissions between Gary Nelson and Jeff Bodine. Trying to listen in as they describe the action to each other. As you can hear, not too much conversation unless there's really something to say.
Okay, just hang up there and see what happens.
louder voice, that of Gary Nelson. You heard Jeff say it's a little loose when you get up there behind him. Somewhat of a factor is the air turbulence. Maybe the track is just a little slicker than it was the first 150 laps of this race. Well, that's what happens in the draft. When a car gets up underneath your rear end, the air that normally would come down and hit your rear spoiler actually is sucked over the car behind you. So the rear of your car will get even looser. That's what happened with Bodine. When Baker would pull up behind Jeff Bodine just a few laps ago, as Bodine was trying to stay on the lead lap, Bodine's car got extremely loose and began to bob and weave in the corner. And now Bodine has been passed by Baker. He is all alone. Buddy Baker has only won 19 times in his Winston Cup career. We're looking at Jeff Bodine. Buddy Baker is winless at Darlington since 1971.
Otocolor VRG film
Has tied Richard Petty when both of them qualified for today's race for the most career starts at Darlington. 55 leads this race. Earnhardt is second. Ken Schrader is third. Bobby Hillin Jr. is being shown in the fourth position, and Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont car is fifth. Elliott is sixth. Davey Allison seventh. Richard Petty has crept back up to eighth. Neil Bonnet is ninth. Bobby Allison is 10th. And 11th is Greg Sachs. Those 11 cars on the lead lap. There's the fourth place car, Bobby Hillin, 22-year-old Midland, Texas driver. And 1 week from today, Hillin will celebrate his 5th anniversary. That's right, he's been driving for 5 years on the Winston Cup Tour. He started at North Wilkesboro Speedway in 1982. He was 17 years of age. He was a junior in high school in Midland, Texas. In fact, he would come qualify and have to go back and finish high school and graduate. There's the battle back behind him. The car number 9, that car in 6th spot, and the car number 28 for Davey Allison. Well, Cale Yarborough is looking right at the battle going on in front of him. Yarborough, who is following Davey Allison Jr. Just listen to this. Cale Yarborough's first Winston Cup race here in the Hardee's race car cam now. His first Winston Cup race was 1957. That is 7 years before the man directly in front of him, Bobby Hillin Jr., was born. What a contrast. 4 years before Davey Allison was born, also a guy who's been racing with him for most of this day. And there's the battle in front you were seeing a minute ago from the Hardee's car cam. The car number 9 at 28, veteran Bill Elliott, and the rookie driver, Davey Allison, going at it, battling back for 6th and 7th spot. Bill Elliott, who also is a man who is in line for potentially another $1 million win. At the top of the screen, just going out of it, is Cale Yarborough. That's where that in-car cam is. There goes Elliott by Davey Allison, and Yarborough, where's he at? He's back there on the right-hand side. They are following the cars running in 3rd and 4th in this race. So less than 15 car lengths separate the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th place cars, and there are the 6th and 7th place cars. Bill Elliott, who won the crown jewel on the Winston Cup Tour, the Daytona 500 at the beginning of this year. A tremendous effort by the Coors team for Bill Elliott. For today, he's not been the dominant force. It's been a Baker and Earnhardt show thus far. But Elliott still has a lot of laps to run here. We're 206 laps in the books. You know, Earnhardt is also the points leader for the 1987 season. And that big crash we had back about a half hour ago took out 3 of the top 6 at 87 points. Avani was 3rd, Rudd was 4th, and Benny Parsons 6th. So, boy, they really also played. Fate has even played heavily into Earnhardt's hand. There you can look at Sterling Marlin's car, that blue and white car number 44. And Sterling Marlin driving for the new team this year, the Wayne King, Billy Hagan team out of High Point, North Carolina. Jerry, they too, like Harry Gant, Hal Needham, Travis Carter, 11 cars we see on the lead lap, they needed a good race, and they're getting it today. I think a lot of people were wondering, did Hagan and King make a good decision in putting Sterling in this car? He was not as much of an established superstar as the driver that they lost, Terry Labonte, when he went to Junior Johnson. But this race, I think, is Sterling's strongest performance over a period of at least a couple hundred laps this season. Well, I think Sterling Marlin is one heck of a race car driver. He comes from a long line of people, of course, that have driven competitively. His dad, Cuckoo Marlin, a veteran who's now retired, who won a qualifying race at Daytona many years ago. And now Sterling trying to make a move. We'll see how good he is in the corner as he slides by on the inside, Bobby Hillin. And he will take over fourth spot from Hillen, but Hillen now moves back to the inside. And if these two cars bob and weave and mix it up, that gives Bill Elliott back there. Elliott and Davey Allison a shot to get up there and battle with them.
Directly in front of them by, oh, let's see, about 10 car lengths is that man right there, Kenny Schrader. Now, Schrader appeared to be on the edge, on the verge of going over the edge just a few moments ago, but things have calmed down a lot to him. But you can see that Sterling, using the centrifugal force on the banking, is moving in very rapidly. That 10 car length differential melted to nothing in no time, Jerry.
Well, Sterling Marlin really using all of the racetrack. His car drifts up pretty high in the corners, and Schrader now sort of cooling a little bit. I'm sure he's been told by Judy Dunlap we still have a lot of laps to go, and the tires are getting worn, so I'm sure he's told his driver, Kenny Schrader, not to take any chances.
And Bill Elliott has stayed in it. He's not been that factor for the lead, but he still is playing at least a role in this race, and certainly will be one of the determining factors as to how the top 5 shakes out should he be able to finish this entire race. But I got to tell you, Jerry, I very much am surprised. As strong as Elliott was down at Daytona, this too was one of his better tracks in his glory year of 1985, and I figured with him qualifying in the top 3 that he certainly was going to be someone to at least challenge Earnhardt.
You know, I talked to Ernie yesterday. They brought their short track car here. They feel like this is a short track sort of expanded to 1.5 miles. And here is Schrader now moving underneath the lap car of Jeff Bodine. You see Schrader. He sees Sterling Marlin back there in the blue car and wants to put Bodine between him and Marlin. But Marlin will have nothing of that. He's going to try to move down and go underneath Bodine, but not in turn 1. That's one of the toughest places on this track to pass as Sterling Marlin falls back in line. But here's a battle back there for the 5th spot as Elliott now and Hillen mix it up.
Side by side, remember that Elliott, the year he won the $1 million, he won both of the races here. The first one was with ease. The second one, the lady in black tried to strike out at him, but it didn't. Elliott way down in the bottom of the racetrack. He's well out of the groove. Hillen closes the door on him, moves down and holds back Bill Elliott.
And Davey Allison now moves underneath Bill Elliott. As Allison makes the move and slides back up in the groove in turn 1. As Davey Allison showing the way around Bill Elliott. That is the 6th spot. Elliott being cranked back to 7th position. And there's Bill Elliott in the car number 9. This is the car that they ran at Richmond. It's a car that was formerly a road course car. They ran this car at Watkins Glen last year, and Elliott qualified this car at Watkins Glen, tagged the wall up there, tore the entire right side of the car off. It had to be rebuilt, and they converted it into a short track car. And Elliott has that car here, and now back in the pack, here's Bobby Allison, 2 veterans battling. That's Allison and Cale Yarborough. And following Bobby through, one of his young friends from nearby Bessemer, Alabama, that's Neil Bonnet, the car number 75. And here's the Hardee's car cam. You're getting a look at the rear of the Bobby Allison car. They just went by Cale Yarborough, and whoa, just about coming together there. And the car spinning.
Yarborough with nowhere to go. Can he get through? No, there's debris. He did not make any significant contact with the accident unfolding live before you. Cale Yarborough, a little bit of skill involved there. Well, maybe a lot of skill, but once again, the element of fortune. Somebody losing control, fire breaking out. And right now, unable to tell who it was. We see a helmet getting out. Is that perhaps Davey Allison involved in that? Hitting apparently the inside wall backwards, and the fuel cell immediately splitting. Now we're getting confirmation on somebody's radio that it is Davey Allison. I'm fairly confident that I did see a helmet removing itself from that conflagration.
And the safety crews are there immediately. You see the ambulance and the fire crews there trying to put that fire out, as we have had a crash now just between turns 3 and 4.
Through the inside guardrail, Jerry.
A tremendous lick for Davey Allison, and we will not speculate. As you see the long shot there, the safety crews are there immediately. Let's see what happened on the replay, Larry.
Well, there is Cale Yarborough following Bobby Allison, and already Davey has begun to spin. He collides with his father and then begins to back down toward the inside wall. Greg Sachs misses him. He hits the inside guardrail.
And Ron Bouchard slides by, and Allison just came down by himself and came across the track and tagged the inside retaining wall. So a pair of Allisons getting together. Davey spinning the car, being tagged by his dad, and Davey's car sliding backwards across the racetrack against the inside guardrail.
Well, he did go, as we look at Buddy Baker, who was leading the race when this yellow came out.
He did go through that guardrail. It's not cement. It's only corrugated steel. It's only 1 tier deep, so that had to lessen the blow. It was not like hitting a piece of cement head-on or backwards head-on, as would have been the case in this particular instance.
Well, there is a fence area, there is a ditch and another fence and a grassy area between that guardrail and the fan compound, so there is no danger to anyone up there as far as the car coming into the fan compound. And Harry Gant now getting some adjustments made, and apparently he is making some adjustments in the pits there, putting his goggles back on as Travis Carter and the Skull crew. You will not find a harder working crew than Travis Carter and that crew on the Skull Bandit. They have tried their darndest to get that car back up front, and they have just not been able to do it. This is the car they ran at Rockingham and rebuilt. Again, a look across at some of the smoke and debris as the safety crews continue to work up in turns 3 and 4.
Prior to this caution flag, Davey Allison was running in 6th position. The number 22 car of his father, Bobby Allison, was running in 8th position. We are still awaiting official word from down at the crash scene on the inside of turn number 4. The last commercial break, we got some definitive word on both Davey and Bobby Allison, Jerry.
Well, we have an in-car radio with Bobby Allison. I just called down on the radio during the commercial, and Bobby has relayed information that both he and Davey are okay. And that's outstanding news, given the fact that the two came together up in turn 4. And let's take a look again from the in-car camera, from the Hardee's race cam, as to what happened. So that's Bobby Allison in front of Cale Yarborough. And we see Cale, suddenly the distance closes as Cale comes right on to Bobby. Bobby apparently trying to hit the brakes a little bit to miss the car. Davey spinning in front of him. Bobby coming through. That's Davey's car spinning, and Bobby and Davey will come together at meet at the wall. Bam! There goes the impact. Allison's car slides along the wall. Our Bobby Allison, Davey Allison's car comes off the track and heads for the guardrail.
Here goes Ron Bouchard on the inside. Cale Yarborough was able to split the difference between the two Allisons. You saw that debris flying, but with the yellow flag coming out, if there were any punctures on Cale's tires, he was able to make the changes. We're getting word that Davey Allison is in the ambulance, but again, according to his father, he was okay. They want to take him to the hospital for a precautionary checkup, the track hospital.
Here we are at real speed. Here is Bobby Allison and Yarborough trying to get on the binders. Bobby trying to slow down, but Davey slides right up in front of him. Bobby tags Davey.
Yeah, my guess, Jerry, is that Bobby could see what was unfolding. And there's Davey with our Gary Lee. Let's go right down to Gary right now.
Davey, what happened out there?
I either cut a left rear tire down or the broken axle going down the back straightaway. And all of a sudden the car veered to the right and then veered back to the left. And I lifted off the gas. When I did, it just turned back to the right and it clogged the track up. Nobody had anywhere to go.
Of course, that melee also involved your dad?
Well, it happened right in front of him, so there's no way he could avoid it.
He's okay, too?
Yeah, everybody's all right.
All right, a long walk back to the garage area for Davey Allison.
Well, it was a great ride. Davey Allison, along with Kenny Schrader and perhaps Sterling Marlin, should this season continue to unfold as it has here today, has certainly proved that he is here to stay, that he's had a strong year. He's been strong in qualifying at every track, and he's had a strong race today. The ambulance has gone to the track infield hospital. They don't seem to be panicking. I don't know if that's where they keep the ambulance parked there normally or not. I don't believe so. He did go down close to the crowd area, but we have no word yet as to who might be inside that ambulance as it reports to the infield hospital.
Well, the good news, though, is Davey Allison and Bobby Allison, the two primary individuals in that accident, are both okay, and we understand Bobby is trying to work on his car to get it back out. I'm sure Davey's car is through for the day, obviously with the impact there. Bobby showing in the top 10 in the points right now, showing 8th overall, and he's trying to get the car repaired. Let's go down to Gary Lee, who's got Bobby Allison.
Bobby, obviously you wanted to make the walk back to the pit area. You went like this to the ambulance. I don't need you. You're okay.
Yeah, to give me a little more time to cool off.
What happened?
Well, Davey had a flat tire. He tried to wave everybody off, but whoever the lap car was behind him spun him, getting in the corner and just plugged the racetrack up.
Obviously you're angry because of that contact. Is there more emphasis there because it was your son involved?
No, I'm just mad because we were running good and we felt like we had a good steady car and a chance to run way up front today, and now we got a long repair job and before we can get back in. You
know, we just had this kind of luck for the past month or so with the Miller American Buick, and we just got to get it behind us, I guess. Glad that neither one of us were hurt.
The Allisons are okay. Let's go back up the pit area to Dick Bergeron.
Well, Gary, the ambulance has just brought one of the firemen in here. They say he has been burned. They do not say how much, but apparently it's not terribly serious. NASCAR officials, however, are keeping us as far away from this area as apparently they can keep us. So it's hard for us to tell exactly what's going on. They have confirmed it is a fireman, however.
I might remind everybody that those of you who are frequent viewers of motor racing know that we have two doctors working on this broadcast. Dr. Dick Bergeron is a doctor of philosophy. I'm very happy to be joined by Dr. Jerry Punch, a medical doctor. A little more on that. We'll be back.
For everyone on the
crash and fire involving Davey Allison and Bobby Allison, but neither one of them were injured. You know, tires play a very important role in every Winston Cup race, and here's some detail in a report from Dick Bergeron.
Tires are a big story at any stock car race, but they're going to be an especially big story here at Darlington. We've got a brand new surface on the racetrack, and Goodyear didn't really have the opportunity to thoroughly test. So they made some educated guesses about what the proper rubber should be here. Now, they've gone to a harder tire on both the left and the right side. Not the hardest tire Goodyear makes, but a tire that's about 10 to 15% harder than elsewhere. They hope that's going to be hard enough to be able to take the toughness that this racetrack can dish out. And this track can really dish it out. Of all the super speedways, this may be the one racetrack where we see more cut tires, more flat tires than any other. And there's a very good reason for it. Although this track is over a mile in length, the drivers treat it as if it's a short track. There's a lot of contact here, a lot of cars rubbing into each other, and the tires get cut down as a result. In addition, the debris doesn't seem to sweep off the racetrack, and that cuts tires. Fortunately, all the tires here at Darlington have a tire within a tire. There's an inner liner, an absolute inside tire that holds air even if the outside tire is cut. So if the outside tire gets cut and goes flat, the driver can still generally retain some control of the race car. One other interesting point about the tires here at Darlington, most racetracks, you'd like to have a brand new tire on your car. That'd be the fastest way to go. Not so here. Used tires are the hot ticket here. Here's a tire Jeff Bodine practiced with on Friday. He has decided to save that tire. He's going to use it in the race. Used tires, believe it or not, are faster than new ones.
Jerry, the inner liners have saved a lot of drivers, but you know something else that it adds to the teams is that you don't have to put as much air pressure in the outer tire, and therefore all the changes are a bigger percentage of any of the changes that you would make. It really makes those precautions, or rather those type of action, you got to be much more precise.
There is the charred car, the remains of the Haviland Ford for Davey Allison has been put on the flatbed truck, and again, that car coming in contact and erupting in flames. And you got to give a call to the safety crews. They were there immediately to put that fire out, and Davey Allison walked away unscathed.
Dale Earnhardt continues to lead this race. He won the 1982 Southern 500 and the 1986 TranSouth 500. Could this be a repeat? In 1987, ESPN becomes one of the networks of the NFL. The National Football League comes to ESPN this fall. There will be 4 preseason games, 8 regular season Sunday night games, and all topped off by the Pro Bowl. The NFL comes to ESPN for the first time in 1987, and believe me, everybody up Connecticut Way is very excited, and we think that all of you around the country and our 15,000 affiliates that we've climbed to in 1987 will be also. Well, Mr. Earnhardt has shown nothing but tailpipe, exhaust pipes, and the rear deck lid to the entire field today. Buddy Baker has shown from time to time that he has the ability to run with him. And as a matter of fact, during the last green flag segment, Buddy Baker was holding on to his own, and Earnhardt was unable to get around him. As a matter of fact, Buddy led 32 laps. One of the features on ESPN that we will continue because the response has been great in 1987 will be trackbacks. This trackback by the Robert Bosch Corporation, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate smart car. Kansas
Saturday night short track racing will never see one of these in the winter circle. This is an alternator. It's very similar, in fact, to the alternator that's on your passenger car. And the only reason Winston Cup cars run these things is because the races are so long. At the end of 500 miles, without an alternator, there's a very good chance that the battery has been drained. Now, some teams really rework these. This is the one out of Phil Parsons' car, and they say all they do is take a stock one apart and put in heavier bolts.
You talk about stock car racing, Larry, and that's indeed a showroom stock part, that alternator. And just ask Dale Earnhardt how important they are, because his went under about 40 laps from the end of the race in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and he was leading and looked to be cruising to victory, and he had to come in and lost 6 or 7 laps in the pits to replace the battery and went back out and finished. But that alternator, a stock part that keeps the battery charged, is very important.
You know, Jerry, from time to time you get into conversations with people about whether or not automobile racing is a legitimate sport. I think that it is, and one of the elements they like to attack is the fact that, well, equipment, machinery can break down. Well, it's like any other sport. There are all kinds of forms of luck. That happens to be one of the elements of racing. It's one that I think makes it as fascinating as it really is. Well, we continue to be under yellow. It's a lengthy yellow because they are repairing the inside guardrail inside of turn number 4. No serious injuries, but we're still yellow.
When you replace ordinary spark plugs with Bosch Platinum plugs, you may not notice the change immediately. The quicker starts, the smoother acceleration.
For 14 laps now, came out on lap 217, and we are on lap 231, completing lap, I guess they've changed the scoreboard. This will be 231. Earnhardt is the leader, Buddy Baker is second, and the number 90 car, Kenny Schrader, is third. The Kenny Bernstein, number 26 Quaker State Buick, is back out on the track. It's very easy to pick out. It's green, but that's not the easiest characteristic to see.
All you see is 2 tires and a radiator coming toward you. That's what's left of the Kenny Bernstein Quaker State Buick. And we understand they have a driver change. Rick Wilson is in the car. They've got the that Kodak film yellow uniform on inside, and Rick Wilson is aboard that car. Apparently Morgan Shepherd taking quite a lick up there in that accident, so Rick Wilson has climbed aboard. And there's a picture of Rick Wilson. He's in the car doing a nice chore. These guys will sub for a lot of their friends. In fact, Benny Parsons got in the Sterling Marlin car at Rockingham and finished a race for Sterling, and now Rick Wilson in the Quaker State car here at Darlington.
Jerry, about 5 minutes ago, I said to you, I'm surprised they didn't throw the red flag, because he went all the way through that guardrail that separates the racetrack from the infield fans. We now understand the red flag will be coming out this lap. They have stretched this as far as they feel they possibly can. Still trying to conclude repairs on the inside guardrail and 4. The red flag is going to come out. It does look strange. That car has been shortened by a bunch.
You know what, people, I was talking to Larry McReynolds, the crew chief on the car number 26, and this is the car that was wrecked so severely at Richmond about 3 weeks ago, and the car had to be totally rebuilt.
Well, there's the guardrail they're working on. Radios buzzed and said red flag, but the yellow stayed out that lap, so we'll just have to wait and see exactly what transpires here. You know, whenever you come to Darlington, you just can't help but being a little nostalgic. And Darlington is probably the place where if you're sympathetic to those sort of things, it comes out more often than any other place here. So here's a look back at the history of Darlington.
A champion in the making. They called him Little David, the Giant Killer, in 1961, when, as a sophomore driver, he won an unprecedented 3 superspeedway races. But after 6+ years, Pearson had only 13 wins when he started the Hickory, North Carolina 250 on April 3rd. David posted his first win of the year and his first of 3 Grand National Championships, making 1966 David's greatest year.
David Pearson, who has more wins here at Darlington International Raceway than anybody. 10 times he has crossed the finish line first, and it's not been a racetrack that has allowed many people to win often, Jerry.
No, it hasn't. This track has been very selective in who it allowed to go to its victory lane and celebrate the afternoon here, and Pearson has been very fortunate. Among the active drivers, of course, Pearson is still not inactive. He plans to maybe run a few races later on in the year, but currently hoping to put his young son Larry, the reigning Busch Grand National Series champion, in the car. In fact, next week at North Wilkesboro, Larry Pearson will make his first Winston Cup start of this year in a car. So there'll be a couple of Busch Grand National regulars starting at Wilkesboro. It'll be Larry Pearson and the fella he beat last year for the point championship, Brett Bodine.
And that subject about the red flag, NASCAR has changed its mind. They did say we're going to go red. Now they're going to stay under yellow. In addition to Pearson's 10 wins, the active drivers, Cale Yarborough has won 5 times here, Bobby Allison 5, Darrell Waltrip 4, Richard Petty 3. Nobody else has been able to win more than twice. And the only thing that's happened since you were away is that Kenny Schrader unusually came in here after about 5 or 6 of these yellow flag laps to get a splash of fuel. Now, I did some quick calculations. We have 133 laps or thereabouts left in this race. The outer envelope is normally about 70 laps per 1 tank of fuel, so unless they think their consumption, as we look at Bill Elliott, is abnormally high, I don't quite understand why they came in, because they came in, had a brief conversation, sloshed in some fuel, and away went Ken Schrader.
Let's check in with Jeff Bodine, who certainly has had his hands full all afternoon with trying to get the Levi Garrett car to handle. Jeff Bodine, this is Jerry Punch at ESPN. Do you read us, Jeff?
Hi, Jerry.
Jeff, it's been a rough afternoon for you. Are you getting the car a little bit closer as far as the chassis is concerned?
Jerry, we had the car running real good there for a while, and the caution came out, so we came in, changed tires, and it ran good for a little bit more, and then the caution came out. We restarted, and the car was loose. We've had a heck of a time with tires today and trying to dial this car in. I don't know if we're ever going to get it right. We keep trying. It ran awful good there for a while. Maybe we can keep the Levi Garrett. Exide Motor Oil, AC spark plug, Henrik Chevrolet up front. We're going to try.
Jeff, we watched it when you were out in front of Buddy Baker there trying to get your lap back, and we were eavesdropping a little bit on your conversation with crew chief Gary Nelson. He said the car got awfully loose. Is that because Baker was tucked right beneath the rear of your car?
We thought that had an effect on it, but no, there's something else wrong, and we haven't been able to figure it out yet. Sometimes that will cause the car to get loose, but we've got another problem. We don't know what it is. The car will run good for a little while, and then it just goes bad again. It's really got us frustrated, but we haven't given up yet.
Well, best of luck to you, Jeff. Keep plugging along.
Okay, we're going to try to keep out here at this tough Darlington track.
Okay, thanks a lot. Our Dick Berggren is down in the Buddy Baker pit.
And I'm here with the guy that owns half of Buddy Baker's cars, Danny Schiff. The other guy who owns the other half is in the car at the moment. It's Buddy Baker. Danny, you guys are having a good day today. You must be pleased.
We're very pleased with the Crisco Oldsmobile, and Buddy's doing a great job. It's taken us 2 years to put this thing together. We really think we're a front runner in every race.
Now, you've got this long slowdown period. How will that affect the automobile?
We're not sure, but so far, all the gauges check out fine. Buddy's fine. The car's fine.
Weather's changing a whole bunch. Will that change your setup as we get more sun this afternoon?
We set the car up to run with the air being a lot cooler than it was in the beginning. We think we're up the right gear. We got a 400 gear in it.
Well, that's Danny Schiff. He owns the 88, half of the 88 car. And meanwhile, down pit road, Gary Lee has another story. Gary?
We never like to see in motorsports is fire. Now, a lot of fire protection in these Winston Cup cars. Here is the Hardee's cutaway car. This is the very back of the car. This is the fuel cell. It has a rubber bladder inside. Here's the fuel intake. This is the overflow. It is pumped out. There's a great distance between this and the driver. The driver, of course, is wearing a Nomex fire retardant outfit. So once again, although we saw fire today, with the rubber bladder and the fuel cell, it is very, very unlikely to see fire in Winston Cup racing.
Indeed it is, Larry. And of course, inside that bladder, there's a sponge that will keep the fuel inside the cell, even if the bladder is ruptured usually. So NASCAR has had that as a safety measure, and that has minimized fires for many, many years. In fact, that's one of the few fires I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, we continue to be under yellow. That incident started about what really happened. It has caused such a delay in the race is that Davey went through the inside guardrail, which is only highway steel rail, if you will, with an occasional railroad tie. And right now they are in the midst of repairing that. That's the reason for our big delay. Kenny Schrader apparently has started something, because while you heard those reports from the pits, Bobby Hillin Jr., Dale Earnhardt, and Alan Kowicki, and one other car I caught a real quick glimpse of, the sun coming in, couldn't see who it was, they have made pit stops. And now Rick Wilson is also bringing in the Quaker State Buick. It's coming back to pit road. Well, we'll continue to watch the proceedings here as we're seeing more and more of Buddy Baker now up front as Earnhardt has given up the lead. Those
those of you at home, your timing continues to be excellent today. We're getting ready to go back green. I hope you're back in your easy chair because we are ready to go racing again at the Darlington International Raceway. Just updating you, the condition of Terry Labonte is, at least in a medical term, good at this point. That's all the detail we have, but it is not a serious or certainly a life-threatening situation. Three abreast down the backstretch. Somebody's going to give going into turn number 3, and it's Buddy Baker, although Bodine doesn't have a strong line. Sterling Marlin is the leader. Sterling Marlin is going to lead for the first time today.
And Sterling Marlin takes advantage of the fact that Baker and Jeff Bodine were dicing for position back there. Bodine is the lap car. You heard us talk to him during the caution flag. He would like to get that lap back. The car is coming back toward him. But Sterling Marlin, who has never won a Winston Cup event, there is Sterling. He leads the pack here at Darlington.
There is about 135 laps to go. That means everybody will have to make one more pit stop. Fuel should not be a factor. The normal envelope is maybe 70, 72 laps, depending upon the number of caution flags. So everybody will have to stop one more time. Should not be a factor.
Let's watch Dale Earnhardt back in heavy lap traffic. He just went by Elliott. Now he's at this sights on Cale Yarborough and the Hardee's Oldsmobile. Earnhardt down on the bottom of the track in turn 1 will slide beneath Yarborough. So we'll see if Earnhardt can flex the muscle and work that lap traffic and get back up through. There's a view out of the Hardee's race cam as Earnhardt slides by on the bottom side of Yarborough. They're still in the banking, and now Earnhardt trying to get toward the front.
I do stand corrected in one way. Sterling Marlin has led one lap today prior to this, but it was under yellow. So this is the second time he has led, but the first time he has taken it away under a green flag condition. And he's getting ready to give it back as we look back at Earnhardt working his way through the field. Buddy Baker has moved underneath Sterling Marlin, and Buddy Baker is going to take over the number 1 position. Schrader is there.
Kenny Schrader running 3rd overall. Now remember, the yellow car is the lap car of Jeff Bodine. He is not in the lead 4. So it would be Baker, then Marlin, then the lap car of Bodine, and then Schrader. Kenny Schrader, who sat on the pole. Buddy Baker, at 45 years of age, has not won since 1983. He won the Firecracker 400 at Daytona. He has been close, but no cigar, and he would like to pick up a win here at Darlington. And what a day Baker has had.
But this is his kind of racetrack. 11 drivers in today's race have career wins here at Darlington. Certainly Baker is one of them. The others, Parsons, Earnhardt, Waltrip, Bonnet, Labonte, Yarborough, Elliott, Allison, Petty, Gant, and Baker.
And Larry Baker's last win here was in 1971. 16 years ago, he was driving the Petty Enterprises Dodge. He won this race in 71. He won the Southern 500 back in 1970. And again, Schrader now trying to get on the inside of Jeff Bodine. And they're battling. Bodine is serious. He wants to get that lap back, and Schrader wants to try to run down Baker and Marlin.
I'll tell you, the man who is still the one who is Mr. Superiority today is Dale Earnhardt. You're going to see him in your picture very shortly. Well, a little shorter than I thought. There he is, and he is coming on strong again. He is in 5th position right now. He has just gotten around Neil Bonnet, who was running in 5th, number 75, and now he approaches Richard Petty.
And there's a battle back for 5th spot. 4th is Petty, 5th is Earnhardt. You see Kenny Schrader's car just moving out of the picture, but Earnhardt now trying to climb back toward the front. A good run for the king, Richard Petty.
Really has been, Jerry. Petty has been holding on to the top 10. At one point today, he almost lost his lap, but he was able to get it back. Caution flag helped him, but since he's gotten it back, he has held on.
And there's the battle. You see the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place cars. That would be the cars of Marlin is 2nd, 3rd is Schrader, and now Schrader goes beneath Jeff Bodine. Bodine slides very high in turn 2, and the 2nd and 3rd place cars now are about a half a car length apart.
Well, what it looked like happened is that Sterling Marlin slowed a little more than what Bodine expected him to, and Jeff had to get on the brakes and knocked him out of sync and allowed Kenny Schrader to sneak underneath.
Now we'll see if Schrader has the strength. You see the battle back down. Richard Petty is going around Jeff Bodine, and here comes Earnhardt.
Yeah. Bonnet is in that shot. Darrell Waltrip at the top of your screen. Remember that Waltrip is at least 1 lap down. I think it's just 1 lap down. Neil Bonnet trying to get underneath Jeff Bodine. Bonnet trying to keep up the pace with the leaders. He is on the lead lap. The Boston Celtics winning another basketball game today. Other scores from the NBA, Chicago winning. In the first
first period. We've got a spin and turn forward. Buddy Baker. Buddy Baker coming back across the track right at Jeff Bodine, but Jeff avoids the problem. But Buddy Baker, who looked like he was a real candidate to be one of the few people to match wits and miles per hour with Dale Earnhardt today, has lost.
Let's see what happened. Baker leading here at the 249 lap mark. Here's Buddy Baker, left side of your screen, all alone out there leading, heading to turns, and the car begins to slide. Baker's car spins, coming in 4. It's in the middle of the track, will slide up and boom into the outside concrete retaining barrier. You see Sterling Marlin coming by, Schrader goes by. Watch Bodine's move to miss Baker. And apparently Baker stating to the crew that he may have run over something on the track. He could have cut a tire down something possibly, but he spun, tagged the wall. The car's still going. There's a look at the gentleman from Charlotte, North Carolina, Buddy Baker, who has had tough luck. And we'll see. Here is Sterling Marlin on pit road.
All the leaders coming in. Ken Schrader was the one among them who did not come in that time. You know, Jerry, we have had a number of incidents in turns number 3 and 4. There has been a lot of quick dry that has been applied to the racetrack up there. And as you heard earlier in this broadcast, this is not the kind of racetrack where the debris is swept off easily. Maybe, just maybe, Buddy Baker got into that, because if you're running up along the wall, if the debris is not going to be swept away from any place, it's going to be up there.
Well, there's Sterling Marlin getting service from Steve Mill and the crew, but he will not be among the first cars back down pit road. In fact, it'll be Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt beat Sterling Marlin and a few others back out. They had a 4-tire change on the Piedmont car, and Sterling Marlin, a 29-year-old Columbia, Tennessee driver who would like to pick up his first ever Winston Cup win, will move back on the racetrack. And again, tough luck for Buddy Baker. Tremendous impact over in turn 4, but Baker's car has bounced back, and it's the same car that Baker finished or had problems with at Atlanta 2 weeks ago. Here is Buddy Baker headed down pit road. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
Well, I asked Doug Redgert why did it not come in. He said, well, we want to get things settled out so we would not lose the laps. And now here is Buddy. Here was your leader. It will be a 4-tire change. There's the drink of refreshment for Buddy. He slaps the steering wheel. Very irate at obviously what happened up there coming off the 4th corner. There was some sheet metal damage to the left front. They're banging that out now so it will not rub that left front tire. They're still working in the same, for the same reason on the left rear, knocking out the sheet metal so it will not rub the tire. So right now they're changing the left side tires. Perhaps they'll only change the left side tires. The left front is on. They're still hammering on that left rear. As the sheet metal was sprinkled up, the lug nuts are now on. Only the left side tires have been changed. Now he almost kills. He stops again. Now Buddy is underway.
And Larry, you see that the big fellas working in the pits there, those are Buddy Baker's sons. Brian, who's 25, Brandon, and of course Doug Reichert, the crew chief, all wielding those sledgehammers trying to make an adjustment on that damaged left rear of the Baker car.
We are now up to 17 official lead changes. Kenny Schrader takes over the lead on lap number 250. We have had 8 caution flags, and the leader at this point continues to be Schrader.
Even though hunting season is over.
Again, you came back just as the green flag fell. You people at home ought to be giving lessons. I'll tell you, you're hitting it right in the nose most of the time today.
Kenny Schrader did not pit, Larry, and he will be the leader. Schrader's last pit stop, he came in under that lengthy caution for the repair of the guardrail. On lap 234, he pitted for a dash of fuel, and there's Phil Parsons trying to get one of his laps back.
Of developments. Phil Parsons has gotten his lap back. He now runs the distance of the racetrack behind the leader, Ken Schrader, but he's now on the same lap. As the green flag flew, Bill Elliott began to make his move. He goes to the inside of Bobby Hillin Jr. Bill Elliott is now second, but there's that blue and yellow car again. Earnhardt goes to the inside. As the green flag flew, Buddy Baker had to pit. He is about, 3/4 of a lap behind. He has not lost a lap, but he is considerably back.
And the battle for fourth spot there is between Neil Bonnet and Bobby Hillen, as Hillen has fourth spot. Bonnet has fifth. There you see the battle for third, second and third place cars. There's the battle for fourth. Bobby Hillen, the youngster, and the 40-year-old veteran Neil Bonnet. There's the leader, Kenny Schrader. That flag being held by Harold Kender is the passing flag indicating lap traffic. Leaders coming as they slide by. Kenny Schrader, the leader. That's the lap car now, having been relapped. That's Bill Parsons. And now let's see if Earnhardt begins to make his move on Bill Elliott.
But one of the unwritten rules of NASCAR, like racing back to the yellow, is that when you are working to get your lap back, to a certain extent, you can go for it, just like Bill Parsons is right now. He's running quicker than the leader, Kenny Schrader, so that's okay. But he also has a responsibility of not doing something like that, getting in the way and mixing it up with the leaders.
Oh, I tell you, almost a move that could have cost Kenny Schrader, and Phil Parsons now
could have taken all three of them out, Jerry.
Could have eliminated the front three cars, but Phil Parsons now hangs on, and really he had a right to where he was on the racetrack, quite honestly, and Phil Parsons now gets that lap back. He's on the tail end of the lead lap. There is Schrader now. Elliott pulling to his rear bumper. Let's look at it again.
As you mentioned, Phil Parsons, he had a right to that piece of real estate.
Phil Parsons on the inside. Now he gets his car turned. Schrader's car up high. They just about, Phil tries to turn to keep from going into Schrader and just about loses his car, but he gathers it back in. And now the battle really tightening up as two cars slide by Schrader. Elliott is the new leader.
Three cars. Here comes Neil Bonnet. Well, almost.
Well, they are making use of at least two lanes in turns 1 and 2 as Elliott now has assumed the point. And we'll see if what happened in Atlanta a couple weeks ago where Bill Elliott couldn't stay with Earnhardt. Maybe Earnhardt can't stay with Elliott today.
Jerry, we are on top of the main grandstand. There is a metal tin roof. I haven't been able to hear the crowd once all day, but since Bill Elliott has moved to the front, I begin to hear some murmur. There is Buddy Baker back in the pits, now losing laps. But the crowd is really beginning to respond to what's going on.
Well, Elliott definitely a favorite here. You know, a lot of the Georgia contingent, because Dawsonville not that far from Florence and Darlington, South Carolina. A lot of fans have come and are waving. Though you see them waving those red caps in the grandstand now as Elliott has assumed the lead. And that's Phil Parsons. You got to give Phil Parsons a call. He's a heck of a job. Elliott cannot run him down. He's doing a super job in a Leo Jackson prepared car.
He really is. He's that defensive lineman or that offensive lineman that just won't let Mark Gastineau get by. He's holding on down in the pits.
Well, I'm with Dan Elliott. Dan, you guys have been sort of hanging around the front all day, but now it's looking really, really strong. Are you strong enough to win this race?
Yeah, I think we are. We've been working with the chassis all day, and we're trying to get it straightened out. The racetrack keeps changing on us, but we keep changing with it. The caution flag's kind of been to our advantage.
Are you running is he running the car as hard as he can, or are you just being conservative at this point?
We've kind of been doing a little bit of both because of the accidents, and we knew there was a long distance left to go. But right now, we've kind of got to give it all we've got. There's not that much left.
Compare your car to Earnhardt's. Which is stronger?
Let's wait and see.
That's an answer or a question that doesn't have an answer, I'll tell you at this point. There is Bill Elliott in the upper right. You can see Bill gets around Bill Parsons. Earnhardt follows him through, and now they have a clean track in front of them, and now we will see what we will see.
Looks like Elliott's car has been dialed in. I believe Dan Elliott, Ernie, and the crew have been able to get that car dialed in, and he seems to be pretty well even with Earnhardt. Earnhardt does not have the advantage he had early on, as Phil Parsons now just riding in the wake of those two drivers. He's still in the lap car.
This is the first time today that Bill Elliott has picked up the 5 points for leading. The first time that Bill Elliott has been there not only under yellow or also under green. There is Rusty Wallace moving underneath Bobby Hillen Jr. Bobby Hillen has been on the lead lap. He remains on the lead lap with the leaders. Wallace is not, nor is Darrell Waltrip. Running fourth right now is the number 75 car of Neil Bonnet, and in seventh position is 44 Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, the battle for sixth spot there, two young drivers. And there's Darrell Waltrip moving on the inside of Rusty Wallace, and the car behind Wallace. Yeah, Waltrip is a number of laps down. They have had their problems with handling. There's Waltrip and Wallace. Then coming into the picture, you'll see, of course, the sixth place car. That's Bobby Hillen. We mentioned the Hillen incident. Hillen battling with Sterling Marlin, and there's Sterling Marlin, the seventh place car. And the car behind Wallace. And Waltrip is a number of laps down. They have had their problems with handling. There's Waltrip and Wallace. Then coming into the picture, you'll see, of course, the sixth place car. That's Bobby Hillen. We mentioned the Hillen incident. Hillen battling with Sterling Marlin, and there's Sterling Marlin, the seventh place car.
Jerry, very, very sad news from the backstretch where Greg Sachs has retired. Greg Sachs, who had been running in the top 10 all day. Remember, he had that stint in the runner-up position for a few laps earlier in this race. Looked like he was in for his strongest finish of the year, but they have pulled behind the wall in the backstretch. And the number 88 car is back in the garage area.
Now we'll see if Earnhardt can hang on. You know, normally what Dale Earnhardt will do at a track like this, he is so consistent, he'll let his car just run consistent laps and wait for the car in front of him's tires to get hot or get worn out, and then he'll make his move. For some reason, Earnhardt seems to be able to keep the car fairly consistent lap after lap. And apparently now he is beginning to move in a little bit on Elliott, but a couple of cars nearby. Of course, Phil Parsons sitting there, he has the best seat in the house. And again, Earnhardt, lap traffic, that is H.B. Bailey's car, one of the lap cars, and Earnhardt falls back single file.
Dale Earnhardt, we commented near the top of the show that he has led more laps than anybody else. He has won 2 of the 4 races run so far. He only finished 16th at Atlanta. We had a chance to talk to him a little earlier.
How does Dale Earnhardt characterize his own driving style? What kind of driver are you?
Well, I love racing, Jerry, and I'm serious about it. I get out there and want to win, and I put my 100% into it, and I enjoy it. Anytime you enjoy something, you're going to do it better. So I'm having a good time doing it. And I don't know. I just try to be tough as I can on that racetrack and try to win.
Jerry, I got to tell you that in the off season, one of the most moving moments, at least for me as a racing fan, was when Earnhardt stood up to accept the trophy as the Winston Cup champion for 1986. He said, I watched everybody else come up here with their prepared notes and speeches, and he said that I decided that I would approach my talk up here like I do my racing and just let it come from the heart.
Well, he's a very sincere person, and sometimes he is mistaken for being a little bit conservative and too quiet at times. But you know, he is a very sincere, very warm-hearted individual when you get to know him.
You know, one thing I'll say is, you know, there has been controversy in the last couple of years that maybe Dale is too much of a rough rider. I got a feeling about that, and there's always a chance, I suppose, he could be way off base calling it from afar, but I think that if Dale has a weakness, it may well be that he expects the same thing from the other drivers that he would take from them or that he wants to dish out, and it may well be a matter that he expects that if they play rough with him, he can handle it, and he may misjudge some of the others from time to time.
Well, he likes to dish it out, and he don't mind taking it. You know, he grew up around the short tracks of Charlotte, North Carolina, watching his dad, the late Ralph Earnhardt, run the dirt tracks, and he saw the framming and banding and the bumper tag that went on week after week, and that's the way he grew up.
I'll tell you one thing for certain, make no mistake about it, the man in the blue and yellow car stands on the gas, and particularly on the big tracks, so does the man in the red and white car. 272 laps have been completed, 367 to go, so we're getting down to about 100 laps to go. Figure on pit stops and no more than 35 laps, maybe about 30 laps before we begin to stop. Bill Elliott is showing the horsepower that we have not seen at all from him yet today. That is until about 20 laps ago when he moved to the front after the last caution flag, and Earnhardt is either waiting or Elliott, Dan and Ernie and boys found something.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that Elliott's car has gotten dialed in chassis-wise. We have one car coming off the wall in turn 4. It is Michael Waltrip's car who tags the wall and comes down out of harm's way. And that car now on the apron as we are again under yellow here. A rash of yellow fever at Darlington, Larry.
Well, Michael had a spin in the very early stages of this race, and I'm sure it disrupted that car. And on this racetrack, if you're walking around with a wounded puppy, soon it becomes a mad dog and almost impossible to hold on to. We're moving to the high side of Phil Parsons. Phil will have an opportunity to move once again up towards the front and try and get that lap back. He'll have to fall in line behind Michael Waltrip, although kind of anticipate Michael to come into the pit. Yeah, he darts ahead of Bill Elliott, probably an indication that he's going to drop down the next time the field comes around. And the 2 leaders are coming in. Jerry, this is too early to make this their last stop.
Yeah, we just about beat too early. They have to go about 100 laps, and they can't do it. There's no way. A little less than 100 laps. They can only go about 70 laps, but they've got to come in and get some fresh rubber, so they'll make their way down pit road.
I tell you, though, with 7 cars on the lead lap, it might be kind of an interesting move for somebody like a Schrader or maybe a Neil Bonnet to stay out there, because
he knows everybody has to come in at least once, but it does look like all the leaders are coming in, and Gary Lee is down there in the Earnhardt pit.
We are, and it's a right side tire change right now. We asked Richard Childers, the car owner, if they were going to make any chassis changes. He said, no, we're just going to pick on some new tires. It will be a 4-tire change. A 4-tire change, no chassis adjustment, but Richard Childers would not say if they were going to change the stagger.
And, Jerry, interesting, again, Kenny Schrader took on no tires, just fuel.
Well, Kenny Schrader's car getting back out again. Here is Bodine as the Levi Garrett crew working. Gary Nelson and the crew will make a 4-tire change on that car, number 5.
Ken Schrader, I think, is going to come out as the leader of this race. Yes, he will be. Bill Elliott will be second, and Dale Earnhardt third, although Schrader did not gain that much track distance from the 2 leaders prior to the yellow flag because they were the second and third ones out of the pit. You know, Jerry, Benny Parsons told me that in that Atlanta race situation when he lost the race when there was a late caution, he said what they discovered was that as their tires wore down, as they got a little warmer, they worked better. So maybe that's what Kenny Schrader is hoping to happen to him here today. Back under green one more time. You can see the 2 abreast alignment. The green flag just fell. Ken Schrader, without changing tires, holds on to the lead, but the people who not only refilled their cars, but changed the skids all 4 corners all the way around the car. Bill Elliott, number 9 there, moving into second place in line, and Dale Earnhardt moving around the outside of Ron Bouchard. They did change. D.K. Ulrich motoring down on the apron of the speedway.
One car is really strong is Bill Elliott. He is moving in on the car that did not change tires, and I believe Dick Bergman has a comment on that. Dick?
Ask Bob Johnson why, just as you all hear it. Bob, why did you not change tires?
Set of tires were working real good that we had on there. The tire wear has been real good all day. This place isn't really that bad on tires. So if you put on another set, you might mismatch or something, so we just think we'd stick it out. As quick as we run all day with the set we had on there. We got to make another stop anyhow, so we'll see what happens.
That's Bob Johnson telling you what's going on in the Schrader camp.
Comment being that the track is not that hard on tires anyway. They've been getting pretty good wear, so why not stretch it to the next and final pit stop?
That speaks well for the Goodyear engineers who came here and tested the tires, and they have picked the perfect tire. We've had no tire wear problems. In fact, Kenny Schrader on used tires is still being able to hold off Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt. That speaks well for Schrader's driving ability.
Try and propel your mind now forward about 100 laps. That's about how far we are from the finish of this race. This might be a scene that could be replayed at that time. Certainly, Schrader is a candidate. Elliott, Earnhardt, Richard Petty, believe it or not, is a candidate for victory here. He has remained in 4th position. Now Elliott goes to the inside of Ken Schrader, and Bill Elliott, under green flag condition, takes over the number 1 position, and now here comes Earnhardt. Still on the lead lap, also running in 5th position is the number 75 car of Neil Bonnet. Bobby Hillen is there, although he has not shown in the top 5 for about the last 50 laps, and the 7th and final car on the lead lap, Sterling Marlin.
Here's Darrell Waltrip in the car number 17. That's Phil Parsons in the 55. Those cars are lap cars. There's Richard Petty, the 4th place car up in front of him. That's 43 Richard Petty showing in 4th position. Petty had a good run at Daytona, finished 3rd. His best finish of the year so far, and he's having a super run today. He is definitely a contender to win here. We still have less than 100 laps to go, and there's Neil Bonnet making a move. Back in there, he slides beneath, or looks beneath Phil Parsons' car. Will slide back single file.
Darrell Waltrip and Phil Parsons are battling for position. They are both 1 lap down, and they are in 9th and 10th positions respectively right now. So the 2 of them are on the track racing together. Phil Parsons has had a good run. He's been very close on a number of occasions of getting his lap back. He is unable to sustain himself ahead of the leaders, but he's been close for like a lap or 2, and if the yellow would come out quickly, he could have gotten it back.
And Petty is the 4th place car. You see Richard Petty, he leads that pack, and here's Neil Bonnet. He's actually the 5th place car. So Neil Bonnet trying to get by the 2 lap cars of Parsons and Waltrip to get up and do battle for 4th spot with Richard Petty.
Jerry, if you project on, though, to the finish of the race, as Bonnet continues to slide by on the inside, the starboards make that port side of the number 55 car of Phil Parsons. It sure looks like that the only people who really, at this point, have a legitimate chance of winning this race are Elliott Earnhardt. Buddy Baker is the only other car and driver combination who showed the apparent strength to run at the two of these people.
Well, I think Baker's problems, you know, he had a tremendous day, and I'm sure he wishes he could have that lap back over in turn 4. But Waltrip's car seems to be getting a little bit better, but he is again laps down. There's Darrell Waltrip in the car number 17, the Tide Machine, one of the Rick Hendrick stable of cars. As Richard Petty is in front of him, the 4th place car. And now Neil Bonnet falls back in line behind Waltrip, keeps his eyes set on Petty. The car that Neil Bonnet is driving here, there's the car number 75 in the picture, is one of the oldest cars Ray Mock has. In fact, this car was built back in 1982, and when Bonnet was with Ray Mock back in 83 and sat on the pole here at Darlington, it was that race car. When he won the Busch Clash, it was that race car. When he won at Atlanta, it was that race car. And when he won at Charlotte, it was the same race car. They put it out behind the shop, and Neil, when he went back to Ray Mock, said, find that race car wherever it is. I want to drive that race car, and son of a gun, it's here at Darlington today.
Absolutely. Well, right now, as we watch the 4th running Richard Petty running in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, right there, Bill Elliott, Dale Earnhardt, and Ken Schrader are the people who qualified 1st, 2nd, 3rd, not necessarily in that order. And that really follows in line with history. In the past 28 years, only once has a winner of a 500-mile race at Darlington started out of the top 10.
Here's a replay of Dale Earnhardt getting a little bit loose in the corner. Watches it rearing the car against the slide, 20 degrees out of shape. Earnhardt very calmly steers the wheel, backs out of the throttle, back in the throttle. Another day on the way to church for Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, back on that story about how often people from the front win here at Darlington. The 1983 Southern 500 winner was Bobby Allison. He started 14th, but the last time a driver started out of the top 10 and won a TranSouth or a spring race here was the Rebel 300 back in ready for this, 58, Curtis Turner. So the place to start at Darlington is up front, and the first 3 starters running this race right now in the first 3.
I think Bill Elliott's car is getting even better. The leader, Bill Elliott, you see the car there in the picture. His car seems to be really working down on the bottom of the racetrack. Elliott's car is running extremely well. Elliott, the leader, about 10 car lengths back to Dale Earnhardt. We'll be back in just a moment.
Although Bill Elliott leads at this juncture right at this moment, Dale Earnhardt, you can see him sliding out of turn number 4. We have been watching him on our TV set here while you were away at commercial, and the car has been dirt tracking all around this 1.366 mile oval, but he does not seem to be losing ground. He has already, by the way, locked up the most laps led, the 5 bonus points to go with that, and Jerry, he's looking for number 1.
Earnhardt ties, but problems with Bill Elliott possibly. Elliott, one car spinning. That's Bobby Hillen's car. Spins and is tagged by Cale Yarborough. Spins the car back around. Hillen's car comes to rest just out of turn 2. And tough break for Bobby Hillen. Bobby Hillen being shown in 7th spot on the lead lap. A tremendous run for the Midland, Texas driver. His car now refired. And there's a shot of the youngster, Bobby Hillen from Texas, as the left front of his car heavily damaged. He spun the car. Cale Yarborough did a great job trying to avoid Hillen. Just nicked him as he came off the banking, and a lot of tire smoke as Hillen trying to get back to pit road.
Jerry, if we talk to Cale Yarborough when this race is over, do you think he's going to say he had a lucky day because he just barely missed? You can see the caution officially on lap 295. He just barely missed significant collisions, or an unlucky day because everything seems to be happening in front of him.
I think Cale Yarborough has to feel like a cue ball. He's been bounced around all afternoon out there, and all kinds of multicolored objects coming at him. Here are the leaders on pit road. Earnhardt is in. Here is Elliott in. And what could be and might be their final fuel stop. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
Well, they are indeed working with the number 3 car of Dale Earnhardt. We asked Richard Childress if the car was loose. Will you make any changes? He just shook his head and walked away. So we're not really sure with this tire change if they're also changing the stagger on the car. But obviously on the racetrack, perhaps he was just driving so hard the car was loose up in the corner. A 4-tire change. They top up the fuel, and Dale Earnhardt is underway.
And there's Bill Elliott's car coming off the jack, Larry.
As Kenny Schrader was exiting, he drove over his air hose. Be interesting to see if that was caught and if it was deemed to be an infraction by NASCAR officials. Now, I do believe that he changed 2 inside tires.
He took 2 right side tires.
Outside tires, okay. And we're getting the word that Neil Bonnet took no tires, and of course some changes taking place on both the number 9 car and the number 3 car. But we are right on the edge now. We are about 70 laps from the finish of this race. Remember, we go 367. We're at 296, so this could be very close for some of the competitors. This might be a time machine. It might be that close for some people. Fixing this one. Yarborough car limping around the Darlington International Raceway. Heavy steam coming across or coming from the right-hand side as the tires continue to rub.
And here's what happened. Yarborough just tries to get by Hillen, but just clips Hillen on Hillen's left front. It takes the sheet metal, skins it all the way down the right side of Cale Yarborough's car. Let's look from the in-car camera. There's Harry Gant behind Cale. Cale is going down, just gets bumped. You can see the car jar. Now you see Hillen's car sliding to a halt behind Cale Yarborough.
And we are getting ready to go back under green. We continue to review some of the National Hockey League scores. You can see that Washington has won. St. Louis has picked up a win on the ice this afternoon. And you're also watching Cale Yarborough, the car listing very noticeably to the right-hand side, coming back in. They got a lot of work to do. We're getting ready to go green.
Returning those, replacing those right side tires. Jake Elder and the crew using the sledgehammer, trying to beat the sheet metal out. We'll get ready to go back to green. By calculations, Larry, they would have 72 laps to go from the time they made that pit stop, and
that could be really close, Jerry, for some of them.
That's 98.352 miles. A little over 98 miles, and I don't think that some of the Fords who seem to be getting a little bit less gas mileage can make it. Maybe we'll check with our pit reporter later on to see what's going on, but right now, Earnhardt showing as the leader with 6 cars in the lead lap.
Here are those 6 cars. Earnhardt, Schrader on the screen, Richard Petty right behind him. They're separated by the lap car of Harry Gant. In 4th position is Bill Elliott. 5th is Sterling Marlin, and 6th is Neil Bonnet. 1 lap down in 7th, Gant. Number 1, Ron Bouchard is 8th. Number 17, Darrell Waltrip 9th, and Jeff Bodine is 10th. Recap on the yellow flags, going all the way back to lap 23 when Michael Waltrip spun. You can see the highlight of that chart right there is the multi-car accident involving most significantly Terry Labonte in 146. On lap 217, the accident involved both the Allisons and the big fire, but no significant injuries. Here's the second page as we run the total up to 9 unofficial. Make that official yellow flags for today. The number 88 car when Buddy Baker spun out of turn number 4. Michael Waltrip, his second caused caution flag in the Bobby Hillen Cale Yarborough incident in turn number 2 on lap 295.
Well, there are the front 3 cars. Dale Earnhardt, the leader, and Kenny Schrader doing a little bit of a bob and weave coming out of 4. Richard Petty, the 7-time national champion, in 3rd place, and Petty is gaining on Schrader in turn 1. And Schrader's car not really that stable in turn 1. It's back and forth a little bit, but Petty gaining some ground.
As we kind of await a charge of Elliott, which we haven't seen yet, here is the pit stop summary from the last stop at lap 295. When Elliott was leading, he came out in 4th. Earnhardt held his ground, coming in at 2nd, leaving at 2nd. Kenny Schrader taking on only 2 tires, came out in 1st from his 3rd entry. Richard Petty was 4th, moved up to 3rd, and Neil Bonnet from 5th to 6th. So everybody pretty much held their own. Pretty good pit stops were all involved. The interesting one was Ken Schrader taking only 2 tires. Gary Lee with another comment.
If you're looking for a definitive answer to the question, can you go the distance? Well, don't expect to get one from the Dale Earnhardt crew or the Bill Elliott crew. We went to each crew chief and said, can you make it? They kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, we don't know. It's a matter now of playing the race. Obviously, if they get a caution flag, it's a moot subject. They'll come in, stop off the field, go back out. If they race green for the duration of this event, no one knows for sure if their driver can go the distance.
They may not know, but they all got an opinion, I can guarantee you that. But Earnhardt's best move would seem to me would be to cool it. Get this lead that he's got, 10, 15 car lengths, and kind of park and ride.
I don't think Dale Earnhardt can ever cool it. I think
that's true, Jerry.
You know, in this race a year ago, he had such a commanding lead, and Childress said, look, why don't you just take it easy and just relax? Dale Earnhardt tried to relax and nearly lost the farm. He said he almost hit the wall. He lost his concentration. So Childress said, okay, go ahead and run your race. Just run wide open out there, and we'll keep the car, and if you run out of fuel, we'll run out of fuel.
Well, the old soldier, Cale Yarborough, continuing to motor along. You can see by the way that car is tilted that he is definitely not at full song. Well, he might be at full song. Now, the camera took a hit in terms of all this chicanery that he's been involved in, so the camera has been dipped over a little bit, so it is over-accentuating how that car is sitting. But as you can see by Cale running way below the apron, he's pulling down on the inside of number 1, so he may be pitting again the next time. Well, that's off of number 3 and 4.
I think Dick Bergeron has caught up with Bobby Hill and the fellow who came into contact with Cale Yarborough. Dick?
Bobby, this car looks about this. You've got a torch on the front, you've got an air chisel on the front, and here like you're ready to go. You're going to try to go back out?
Yeah, we're going to go back out there so we can race for the points. You know, we were running real good and trying to stay in the top 5, and I got in there and got some tires I didn't like, and I was trying too hard and got into the first turn too hard and went out and hit the wall. I tried not to make too much difference, but that's the way it goes. I just want to thank Miller and Buick and TRW and all that. We ran competitive, so we got something to build on, so we're pretty pleased anyway.
I'm going to tell you what, if this were your street car, your insurance company would call it a total. Right now, they're in the process of taking the radiator out, the front bumper out, the oil cooler is damaged, there's oil under the car. What a mess.
Despite the fact that Bobby's best finish this year has been only an 11th at Richmond, he is one of only 5 drivers, as you saw a couple minutes ago, that has completed all 4 of the previous races.
Cale Yarborough back at the pit. You see the Hardee's crew there. Jake Elder, the fellow with the radio on, standing upright, directing some of the crew with that sledgehammer, doing some cosmetic work, some delicate reconstruction to the right front fender. Apparently, they are just trying to beat the fender out. Cale had gone back out and was still having a lot of smoke from the right side of the car. And apparently, Cale Yarborough having a rough day for the Hardee's car. Had been showing 1 lap down in the top 15, showing 12th before this accident. And there are the leaders.
As I am watching Cale Yarborough, I'm thinking ahead also to next week at North Wilkesboro and the presence of Brett Bodine. 90 Kenny Schrader and 43 Richard Petty are in it for position. They are racing for 3rd place in this race. Make that 2nd place. No, it's got to be... Oh, Elliott is not back up there yet. Okay, so they continue to run for 2nd place as Bill Elliott. I assume that he had kind of moved his way back up while we were doing all those other chores, and he had not. They have been able to hold back Elliott. Elliott, as a matter of fact, is in 5th, as Sterling Marlin has proved to be an obstacle for the man from Dawsonville.
Well, there is Schrader trying to hold off Richard Petty, and here is the car number 44. That is the 4th and 5th place cars. While Bill Elliott, or Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, trying to move in on the youngster from Columbia, Tennessee, Sterling Marlin. And Marlin on the high side, Elliott takes the low route. As they come out of turn 4, and it'll be Elliott. Elliott gets by him, and that's Neil Bonnet now moving in on. He will be running for position. Neil Bonnet likewise still in the lead lap, and Elliott will take 4th spot as he moves around the slower car of D.K. Ulrich, the car number 6. And Bill Elliott and Sterling Marlin in 4th and 5th, trying to move in on Richard Petty, the 3rd place car.
Well, I'll tell you, if Earnhardt was not running away with this race, which he has been for most of the day, this would be a tremendously exciting contest because Kenny Schrader is unable to get a significant leg up on the rest of the field. Richard Petty has not been able to move to the front, and Elliott is having a hard time clawing and scratching and fighting his way back up to the runner-up spot.
And Sterling Marlin's car drifts up a little bit, and it looks like Neil Bonnet will have the opening he needed to get underneath him. No, he doesn't quite have enough muscle. The Pontiac for Neil Bonnet falls back in line behind Sterling Marlin.
There have now been 24 lead changes among 11 drivers, but the man who continues to be the only significant one is Dale Earnhardt. Elliott holding off Sterling Marlin. Marlin holding off the number 75 car of Neil Bonnet. 313 laps are down. If we don't have a caution flag, this could be a race for 2nd. Dale Earnhardt, who, as we dawn on the
25th race of 1987, has now won over $5 million in racing. He could add to it today.
Okay, thanks. My insurance rep says go with the GM part.
Raceway. There are the people who are trying to decide who's going to get fifth in this race. It's Sterling Marlin in the Piedmont blue and white number 44 machine, and the Valvoline red, white, and blue car is Neil Bonnet. And Darrell Waltrip is right in there, but Waltrip is one of those cars who is a lap down. He is being shown right now in 9th position.
Well, there are only 6 cars on the lead lap, and those are the 5th and 6th place cars right there. Sterling Marlin and Neil Bonnet. A tremendous run all day long for the youngster from Columbia, Tennessee, Sterling Marlin, and lap traffic as Bonnet falls back in line. That is Darrell Waltrip and Ron Bouchard, the lap cars behind Neil Bonnet. Bonnet seems to be able to use the lower groove a little bit, but he can't quite hang on as Marlin presses the muscle, forces the horsepower, stays in front. 50 laps to go.
And I'll tell you, they're really going at it too, Jerry, because a couple of times in the last couple of laps, they have come very close. Labonte's left rear and Bonnet's right front. We've got an update on Terry Labonte's condition, as a matter of fact, and Dick Bergen is down there right now.
Well, Larry, I just talked to Bob Lanford. He's the publicity director for Labonte's sponsor, and he just told me that Terry has a broken shoulder blade. And I'm wondering if Dr. Jerry Punch can tell us what that will mean for Labonte's ability to drive a race car for the remainder of the season. Jerry?
Well, Dick, it all depends on where the injury occurred and which part of the shoulder blade. If it's up near the shoulder joint, well, it may be very difficult for him to get back in a race car for maybe a month. If it's down in the lower part of the wing of the blade, the lower part of the scapula, the shoulder blade is termed clinically, it may not be that much of a problem. You got to remember, last year Neil Bonnet broke his scapula, his shoulder blade, in a violent crash in Pocono. He had to get out of the race car, and that's where Davey Allison got his first shot at a good ride. Davey Allison drove the Junior Johnson car for Neil Bonnet, subbing for Neil at Talladega last year. And that's where Harry Ranier saw Davey Allison and gave him a shot to ride in the big time in his car this year. So as far as Terry Labonte is concerned, we really can't speculate as to how soon he may be back in the race car or how much the injury will cause a problem for that team the rest of the year. But Neil Bonnet right there, Larry, certainly having a great run today.
Neil Bonnet has eclipsed, finally, Sterling Marlin for 5th position. You know, everybody has taken their best shot at one time or another today at Earnhardt, and he's turned them all back. There you can see Neil Bonnet in the last 4 TranSouth races. His performance as Rusty Wallace pulls into the pits. Rusty started out as one of the top contenders in today's race, but it didn't last very long, did it, Mr. Bergeron?
Working underneath the hood of this automobile right now, he's in the pits, and what they're doing to it is jamming water into the radiator. They've got water under pressure, and they're putting it in. They're also squirting fuel in the tank, and they're having trouble with the fuel can. This is a tough pit stop. Oh, the engine just died. He got it started again, sort of. The engine is running very ragged. In fact, I bet it expired right here. Smoke and steam just came up from the breathers on the engine. Steam everywhere under the hood. Wallace is quiet in the pits.
Well, that's what can happen when you have a car that stalls on pit road. It happened to Dale Earnhardt last year in the 500. You spray that ether into the carburetor to try to get the engine to start, that starting fluid, and if there's no gas in it, that thing will completely explode the engine, and apparently that may have been what happened to Rusty Wallace.
There is the leader, Dale Earnhardt, the second yellow car in line. I think Jeff Bodine is directly in front of him. We'll give you a sort of a panorama of everybody left on the racetrack. Earnhardt has been the supreme being today here at the Darlington International Raceway, and it's tough to pan back because as he goes around the track, he's passing so many people so quickly, it's difficult to try and do a pan back. There is Rick Wilson, who is substituting for Morgan Shepherd. He was involved in that big crash that involved Labonte earlier in the race. Rick Wilson started this race in the Kodak car with our Kodak cam inside, and now Rick is in the Kenny Bernstein machine. Rick Wilson, man, has been very strong in the super speedways. And Jeff Bodine is in this shot, Jerry.
Well, Jeff Bodine, they certainly have been coming on strong. There's Jeffrey Bodine, a nice-looking fellow, 37 years old, from Chemung, New York. He is back in it, trying to hang on. That's a team car right behind him, Benny Parsons. Benny Parsons, 45 years of age, from Ellerby, North Carolina. Not finished a race here in quite a while.
Let's go back and see who else is in the field.
The two of them are in 12th and about 17th is our best estimate in regards to Parsons, but it is Bodine who is in 12th position. The 12 car has turned in a run all day long. That is Roger Hamby's car. And the interesting thing about that, Slick Johnson's in it today, but Jerry, there's some news in regards to next week.
Well, indeed there is. Doug Wolfgang is going to be driving that car next week at Wilkesboro Speedway. We'll probably run 5 races in the car for the remainder of the year. There's the car number 90 of Kenny Schrader, the Benton, Missouri driver who sat on the pole. Awesome Bill Elliott, the car number 9. That's a battle back in there for third, second, and third spot. Schrader second, and Elliott is third.
Elliott has picked up a little bit. You know, Elliott was back in 5th position. Now he's gotten around Richard Petty, the next man we want to talk about. Richard Petty, the man who hasn't had a pole since Hector was a pup, as they say. It's been a long time since he won. The last one he had was the one in front of President Reagan a couple of years ago at Daytona, but he's had a strong effort here today.
There's a shot of the King, and here's Harry Gann, an ailing Harry Gann. He had a tongue laceration and a couple of broken ribs in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago. A yeoman's job today for Harry even to last the distance here at Darlington, hurting the way he has been all week long.
Right now, Harry is in 7th position, 1 lap down. The next car is the red and white Roger Hamby car, which we've already discussed. Doug Wolfgang's ride for next week. And now here's Dale Bonnet.
Here's Neil Bonnet, the 5th place car. Bonnet, this is the car that he was so successful in with the Raymont team back in '83. Neil, 40 years of age, from Bessemer, Alabama. Coming over from the Junior Johnson stable last year. There's Sterling Marlin, 29-year-old driver from Columbia, Tennessee, former Rookie of the Year. Marlin having a good run. He is still on the lead lap, showing in 6th position.
A lot of people were asking, did they make a decision, a good decision, to put this young man behind the wheel? And I think today may be a step toward the positive. Yes, they did. And there is Darrell Waltrip. Are you disappointed? They're disappointed, I'm certain.
Well, I'm sure they are, but you cannot count Darrell Waltrip out, the 3-time Winston Cup champion. He and Waddell Wilson will get their act together, and I believe that short track season is coming upon us next week at Wilkesboro. We may see a whole different race team up there because Waltrip is awfully strong on the short track.
I'll tell you what, I do not believe that there is a real candidate for the points champion, however, in 1987. Maybe 88, certainly 89.
Ronnie Bouchard, the Pittsburgh, Massachusetts driver, on the far left of your screen. That is Bouchard in the Bullseye Barbecue Hoss Ellington car, going around Slick Johnson in the Roger Hamby car. Bouchard having only 1 win in Winston Cup competition, that coming back in 1981 in Talladega. And the car number 55, that is Phil Parsons, taking over the ride that older brother Benny had a few years ago. That is the Leo Jackson prepared car. Leo and Richard Jackson, the brothers, prepared that car. There is Phil, and what a great run he had early on, Larry.
Bouchard is in 9th position right now, and Phil is in 11th. And so many times today he's been so close to getting the lap back, but it's never happened. There is Michael Waltrip. We mentioned him just a few moments ago. Michael and crew say that they are close to what they feel is the sponsor that will help propel them from running as a mid-pack car to a challenger for the top 10. He had that great win in an ARCA race about a week and a half ago.
And Connie Saylor in the car number 64. That's the Elmo Langley car. Saylor, an infrequent competitor from Johnson City, Tennessee.
And it wasn't that long ago that you know who the pilot of that car was? Kenny Schrader. Gives you an idea of how big of a difference a couple of years and some cubic inch dollars will make on this circuit.
And here's Kyle Petty, another second or actually third generation driver. Kyle Petty, who picked up a win a year ago at Richmond, having a pretty decent run. They've had their troubles today. That's the Wood brothers car. Glenn and Leonard Wood, Lynn and Eddie. Lynn Wood's sons prepare that car. Kyle running well in the point standings.
Alan Kowicki, who finished 11th last year in his second TranSouth 500 start ever, and who was the pole setter at the Richmond race this year, the Rookie of the Year from a year ago, the man who lost his crew chief this week, and he may well be a factor in the future, but not today. In regards to factors, that's how it's been spelled today. And Dale very close to the wall, getting loose. Dale Earnhardt is still standing on the bucket.
He has not backed off one bit. Certainly, that indicates he is not. Let's take a look again at Earnhardt's close call in turn 1. Here he is. You see that white line going beneath the car. He's headed for the wall. See those Darlington stripes already painted from the rubber and the sheet metal. It just keeps the car out of the wall. He gets back in the gas, and tremendous effort by Dale Earnhardt. Let's go down to Gary Lee.
Gentlemen, apparently we now have a definitive answer. Yes, from the Dale Earnhardt crew, they can go the distance without stopping for fuel. Now, it would appear that everything is perfect with Dale out there. Not so. The sun has been playing peekaboo. Every time the sun comes out, the track gets hot. The sun dips back behind the clouds, the track cools off. The Earnhardt crew with Richard Childers is trying to stay up with track conditions. So every time Dale Earnhardt pits, the stagger is changed. If there is a yellow, they may well change the stagger again to improve handling. But right now, it seems that everything is going his way in car number 3. But he can go the distance without stopping. How about the on-down pit road, Nick Berggren?
Well, I'm in Kenny Schrader's pit right now, and Schrader's crew has just checked their fuel situation, and they have concluded that they are 4 laps short of being able to make it all the way on what they have for fuel. 4 laps short on Schrader for making it all the way.
Well, that's an interesting moment of honesty that sometimes, I shouldn't use the word honesty, that they are revealing what is a potential weakness, and you don't always pick that up along pit road. So good job of reporting there, Dick Berggren. An interesting part of the race here unfolding. Jerry, you mentioned a little while ago that the Fords don't get nearly as good a gas mileage as the Chevrolet products.
They have not, by history, gotten very good gas mileage, or not as good. I said they are getting better. In fact, Elliott's car has gotten extremely good gas mileage this year, but they still aren't quite where they need to be with General Motors products. Bill Elliott may have to stop. Schrader may have to stop. The climax unfolds as Dale Earnhardt continues to lead here at Darlington. We'll be back.
37 laps to go. There is the leader of the race, but maybe the people with the best chance right now are 4th running Richard Petty and 5th running Neil Bonnet in number 75. What's that you say? Well, the plot has begun to thicken just a little bit. Our chief spotter, Danny Laycock, says that he has discovered in his own inimitable, mysterious way that Earnhardt has been instructed by the crew to build as big a lead as he possibly can. We have noted that Dale has really been standing on the throttle the last couple of laps. Why build as big a lead as you need, as you possibly can? Because they are saying, Dale, you may have to come in one more time to stop for gas. Now, if Earnhardt comes in, we're checking him on this lap, and if both the Fords come in, that means that Petty and Neil Bonnet may have a chance.
In fact, in point of fact, in that last pit stop, Neil Bonnet was the last of those leaders to come in and pit. So if anyone can make it all the way, it would have to be Neil Bonnet. So he may be the sleeper. Here is the clock, still on Earnhardt, coming out of turn 4 for that 1 lap, 32.3. Still an awfully good 152.247 miles per hour. An awfully good lap here. 340 laps into the race. That's a pretty good speed for a race lap.
If you have joined us at mid-race here, we're running a little behind schedule in terms of this race unfolding because of a lengthy caution flag about in the middle segments of this race when Davey Allison went through the inside retaining wall, did not strike any of the spectators in the infield area. Big fire broke out. Davey is okay, but because he went through the inside wall, we had a very long yellow while that was repaired.
Let's take a look and see what kind of lap times that Kenny Schrader, the second-place car, is turning in. Let's see if Schrader can actually be catching Earnhardt or maybe is losing time. That is Schrader, the car number 90, and he is the second-place car. That is Elliott in third place. Remember, 32.3 seconds, the lap time we clocked for Dale Earnhardt, over 152 miles an hour. And there is Schrader, the second-place car. His laps are winding down. We're about 22 laps from the end, or 23 laps from the end right now. Schrader driving the car. 2 car lengths, maybe a car length and a half back, is Bill Elliott.
Shades of Daytona, where Elliott and Schrader went at it for a qualifying win. 32.3. It's exactly what Earnhardt had.
So Schrader is not really catching him. He has to, I think probably Kenny Schrader would like possibly to get a yellow flag. And the other thought is maybe the cars number 90 and 9 maybe drafting together to conserve a little bit of fuel. The car that leads the draft is going to actually burn more fuel, and the car who sits back there and rides, at this point being Elliott, is a car that could conserve the fuel.
Putting a lap on Eddie Bierschwal, certainly Elliott is the driver who is in control of this situation. As we go back up front and look at Earnhardt, whose lead has grown, but not by much. He's about at 12.4 seconds. He was at 12.2 seconds just a couple of laps ago. Richard Petty, Neil Bonnet, going after 4th position. They have been tied together like they were on a string for the last 30 or 40 laps. Bonnet is now making a move. Bonnet has waited for a considerable amount of time, and Neil Bonnet, just as we go back to him, picks the right time to put a lap on Richard Petty. You get to see it. Not a lap. He takes a position. Well, our speculation, I understand, is correct. We have confirmed from the pits that they feel the 75 car can go all the way, Larry. Of course, somebody told us that Dale could, too. Well, it's true, but, based on our calculations, yeah, I agree. I think Neil Bonnet probably is the one who could make it because they did come in, Butch Mock and Bob Rahilly, the Ray Mock owners, brought him in at the very tail end of that last caution period. He actually pitted 3 laps after Earnhardt did, so he should be able to go. Jerry, do you think because drafting is not as much of a factor on this track, and there's a tire going down, is that on Bonnet's car? It sure looked like the left front was giving some smoke. Yes, it is. Neil Bonnet, his chance for victory may be going away. That tire smoke was being puffed out as he was going down the straightaway, not into a corner. So we'll watch closely and see what's going on with Neil. And he is definitely slowing down. Here comes Richard Petty, who's going to make a move on Neil Bonnet. Over and very carefully and very calculating. Petty goes to the outside around Neil Bonnet. That's Harry Gant, Sterling Marlin. Marlin, it would be the 5th place car if he goes by Bonnet. Doesn't look like tire smoke. That appeared to be something under the hood because he was approaching the corner. It appeared to be tire smoke at the first point, but I don't think so now. I think the engine might have coughed a minute there and a puff of smoke from that left side exhaust pipe, and he just can speculate that maybe he lost a cylinder. Oh, what an unfortunate circumstance for Neil Bonnet. Just as we were ready to set him up as one of the real growing candidates for victory here, the engine goes away. Well, he had the inside route with 18 laps to go, and apparently he's going to try to ride it out and collect those points and try to stay up in the NASCAR point standings, but certainly he is not at full power. Boy, this is like sitting inside of a very small room, no way to get out, and a powder keg is burning next to you. Can Dale Earnhardt go the distance? Will he have enough time to come in and get a quick slosh of fuel? Do both of the Fords have to stop? Could this be a win for the king, Richard Petty? Stay with us. This could be interesting. Darlington International Raceway coming down to the final stages of today's race. Dale Earnhardt has dominated this event. Bill Elliott and Ken Schrader have been contesting for second, and we have noted a slowing down of Ken Schrader in recent laps. He is now running 3rd to Elliott. Richard Petty is in 4th, and Sterling Marlin is in 5th position. We will come back with the potentially exciting, very exciting finish of this race. We don't know if everybody can go the distance with the fuel they have. Well, you have been good at home at catching the green flags, but this is one you missed. While we were away, Dale Earnhardt ducked into the pits for one quick swallow of fuel. You can see he didn't spend more than 2 or 3 seconds stop, but he did come out in 3rd position. He is back on the track in 3rd spot. He came in with 11 laps to go. There are now 9 laps to go here at Darlington, and Earnhardt has his work cut out for him. The question mark, Larry, is one, can Elliott make it the rest of the way? And how about Schrader? They've already told us they can't go all the way, but we don't see much activity in either one of their pits right now. So there is Ernie Elliott. We'll watch and see if they move over and get that gas can ready to bring his younger brother Bill Elliott down pit road. And Richard Petty is 4th. He did not get around Dale Earnhardt when he pitted. We have been told he has to stop one time. Sterling Marlin is running in 5th position. He did not get around Dale when he pitted. We do not know whether or not Sterling has to come in. So the story, I think, is the number 9 car. It looks like that Earnhardt is going to be able to catch Kenny Schrader, so he may pass him on the track whether or not Schrader stops. But can he catch the number 9 car? Well, maybe we'll find out, or at least get some indication as to what's going to go on in the Elliott pit, because Gary Lee is there right now.
Well, let's see now if we can get an honest answer. First of all, we were told by Earnhardt he wouldn't have to stop. Now, give me an honest answer. Is your boy going to have to stop?
I don't know. How would you be willing to gamble at this point in time?
All right.
We're going to wait and see. We're just going to have to stay out and see if we can make it all the way.
There's the word from Stan Elliott. We're going to go for broke. Let's go on down pit road to Dick Berggren.
And I'm with Judy Dunleavy. Judy, are you guys going to stop, or are you going to try and make this thing happen?
Well, Schrader will tell us when we need gas, so we'll just wait for him.
If he doesn't tell you, you're going to just leave him out there?
We'll leave him out there till he hollers.
That's the story from Schrader's pit.
Well, what they're depending on is that Kenny Schrader, both Kenny Schrader and Bill Elliott will be looking at that fuel pressure gauge, and when the gauge begins to waver over in the banking, as they come off the banking and the pickups can no longer get fuel out of the gas can, the fuel cell, it'll begin to cough and burp. And that's when they'll call pit road and say, here I come. And apparently Kenny Schrader has already called them. They're getting ready for him on pit road.
As you can see also, Earnhardt has gotten around Kenny. We are standing, or we are seated right above the Junie Dunleavy pit. They've begun to scurry around. The man is out on the racing surface, not the racing surface, but the pit road surface. He's got the sign up, and they are anticipating Kenny coming in the next couple laps. You can see Earnhardt touches the wall. Dale Earnhardt stands on it just a little too long, going into number 1. And for the second or third time in the last 30 laps, Dale Earnhardt comes, this time, too close for comfort.
And Dale Earnhardt appeared to be reeling in Bill Elliott. He was just about 8 or 9 car lengths back, but he just may have pushed it a little bit too far as he nicked that concrete retaining wall. 4 laps to go this time by. Harold Kinder holds the 4 fingers down. Here's Kenny Schrader making his way down pit road. This may be the difference between 3rd and 6th for this man. I don't know how he will come out in reference to Richard Petty and Sterling Marlin, but watch for it just being a very quick splash of fuel. Ken Schrader. About 4 seconds in the pits there. Schrader now moves out, and he will have to get back on the speedway. Bill Elliott is the leader. There is Schrader coming back up to full speed. Elliott comes by. 3 laps to go this time by. As Elliott comes by, you see that's the Rick Wilson subbing for Morgan Shepherd. Well, now it's down to 1 factor and 1 factor only. Can Bill Elliott go the distance on the fuel that he has? Dale Earnhardt is too far back to catch up. Will this Ford be the gas guzzler that it has been in some races in years past, or have the Elliots pulled a rabbit out of the hat? It is down to that 1 factor only. While the story unfolds, here's Earnhardt. You see him just coming out of turn 4, about 3.5 seconds back from Bill Elliott. Remember the very first race of the year, Jeff Bodine was leading at Daytona. Gary Nelson decided to roll the dice and see if they could make it and win the 500. They came up short, ran a field with a couple of laps to go. He ended up finishing 14th. Here today again, they're going to gamble. It's the Coors Ford. Elliott hasn't won there since 1985. Can he make it? Jerry, he was way down out of the groove the last time he went into turn number 3. Do you suppose by taking different lines than what he has been accustomed to all day, he's trying to slosh whatever fuel is left there? He is definitely not on the hammer as he has been up to this point, taking it very carefully. About 2/3 of a lap to go. I think that's exactly what he's doing, Larry. I think the car may even be coughing a little bit, burping possibly, sputtering as he comes out of the corners. There Elliott is off of it. He's out of it. Now does Earnhardt have enough time to catch him? It's likely that he does. Elliott is practically coasting through 3 and 4. Here comes Dale Earnhardt, definitely at a much higher speed. Dale Earnhardt goes around the out-of-fuel Bill Elliott, and Dale Earnhardt is going to win the TranSouth 500, his second win of 1987. Oh, my goodness. Can you believe it? A half a lap, about 3/4 of a mile, and Bill Elliott would have gotten the checkered flag. And look at the jubilation in the Wrangler pit. That is Kirk Shelby, Richard Childress, Cecil Gordon, Danny Myers, and all the crew. They couldn't believe it. When they came by for the white flag, there's Earnhardt waving to the crowd. When they came by for the white flag, that crew had to figure, well, second place isn't too bad today.
Absolutely. You got to figure as they go by each other and congratulate each other for first and second. Elliott was lucky to hold on for second. All victories are sweet, but one that happens within about 2 or 3 seconds and happens about 5 seconds from the end of a race has got to be a particularly sweet one. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where they won the race. It was another real team effort on behalf of the Childress team.
Now there's a full-featured camcorder this small that replays through your TV or your...
Well, Dale, you are one happy guy. Who developed that strategy at the end on fuel?
When you run out, you got to come to the pits. You know, the fuel pressure bobbled one time, and I said, I'm getting some gas. I done run out one time at Daytona. And, you know, I thought when we were racing to the end, at one point there, I thought I could catch him. Slow cars caught him up down there. And I went down there and lost this rascal and got in the wall myself, and then that just burnt me. And then he run out of gas going in one down on the last lap. I just couldn't believe it. Just the good Lord's looking after us. It's a good day for us. So thank Goodwrench and Wrangler, and I say hi to Dale Jr. and all the guys up at the Oak Ridge Military Academy. Everybody just did a super job on this car today. Worked hard, Kurt, and it's just a great day for us. I can't believe we won this race like this. I just can't believe it.
That is one happy driver. And your car was very loose. You almost lost it several times.
Well, I was running on the ragged edge trying to catch him after I'd gassed it, and we had the car where it run free, and I couldn't believe we won that race.
But he did. Up to you, Larry Newber.
Today's very happy Goodyear Winner Circle has been brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. We'll be back with a wrap-up on today's exciting finish right after this. Dale Earnhardt has won again. It's the third time in 1987 he's come home the victor. Earnhardt winning, Bill Elliott finishing in second, Richard Petty getting home in third, Sterling Marlin fourth, and Ken Schrader dropping back to fifth after that late race pit stop. Today's race has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Dodge, setting new standards of performance. And by Guardian Brakes, the quality line of brake parts and hardware for your American or imported car. And by Kodak VRG Film, unsurpassed color and print film. Kodacolor VRG Film, the color of life. Well, this is Larry Newber on behalf of